They're passionate about their motor racing in Sao Paulo. They adore their heroes like Senna and Fittipaldi. This afternoon, though, Fittipaldi could lose his status as the youngest ever world champion. It looks very much like D-Day for F1 2005.
Raikkonen's made a terrible mistake into one, pushing too hard, he's lost a lot of time, and that could well hand pole position to Fernando Alonso.
Only Raikkonen can deny Alonso the title. He has done himself no favours. Flavio Briatore and his slick Renault team are in the groove. Never mind making history, Alonso just wants to win the Grand Prix.
First of all, we go for the win, but for sure the last half of the race we have to see where we are.
We have a classic circuit for the potential climax. Interlagos, anti-clockwise, very quick and genuine overtaking opportunities throughout the Brazilian Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to the Renault garage. It is pretty noisy in here. They're firing up Giancarlo Fisichella's car. This is the hub of the operation. All the mechanics behind me, the fight faces have definitely come on. Don't call us nervous, they've been telling me, just call us excited. These cars are going to be going out on track in just a couple of minutes' time. You're looking at Fernando Alonso there, the man a drive away from the world title. He is emphatically Mr. Cool. Let me just underline for you the current situation between Alonso and Raikkonen. Alonso with that 25-point lead. If he's 21 ahead after the Grand Prix, he is the champion, because there are 2 races to go in Japan and China. 20 points, of course, available for the winner. 6 points or a place on the podium, that does the job for the 24-year-old Spaniard. Well, as for Kimi Raikkonen, he's got to finish in the top 4 and score 5 more points than Alonso. Otherwise, he's runner-up in the championship. It's all gone very quiet in here. Qualifying didn't raise the Finns' hopes. Let's join the ITV F1 commentary team, Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Well, qualifying at Interlagos is always absolutely critical. It's a short lap here. Sometimes we get within 15 cars within a second of each other, so it's absolutely vital to get a nice clean lap and not carry too much fuel.
It's true, but this year there was a big spread in the field actually, and I thought quite a lot of lacklustre drives. There were 3 standout laps though. Alonso clean in 6th in the Red Bull, Montero in 13th for Jordan Toyota. Let's talk about those 2, Clean and Montero. Great drives.
Yeah, particularly Clean. I mean, people were coming up to him in the paddock from different teams afterwards, congratulating him on his lap. It was a very special lap. He's carrying a reasonable amount of fuel, we understand, but for turn 1, for example, just absolutely beautiful the way he executed that.
Yeah, he took a very high line, got the car straightened up early on the apex, and then just attacked the rest of the lap, and we believe he's got a solid amount of fuel on board too.
Montero did a nice job in the Jordan. They've worked on that car. 600 miles of testing last week at Silverstone. But what about Jenson Button? There's a strange story there. His straight line speed is way down on everybody else's. The team is saying it's because he got a freak gust of wind on the nose, cost him 0.2 of a second.
But he's been slow in a straight line all the way through free practice. But yeah, I'm finding that one a bit difficult to believe. But that's what the team say. It looked to me more like the car might be just dragging along the ground, actually. But nonetheless, 4th place for Jenson on the grid.
But we have to really talk about the 2 at the front, Kimi Raikkonen and Alonso. Huge pressure on both. But Renault and Alonso did the business, didn't they?
Yeah, Alonso just stepped up to the plate. And it's Raikkonen that made the mistake, despite effectively less pressure.
So Alonso hoping this weekend will make him the youngest ever Formula 1 world champion, and with that pole, he's halfway there.
to be in pole position help a lot, to have a clear first stint, and also to have Giancarlo in front of Kimi for sure is a help for me for the championship.
I'm looking forward. We have a good pace, we have a new aero package, new spec engine, and we are much closer to McLaren now.
We haven't lost it completely. Okay, I'm fifth, that's pretty good still, and it all depends really on the pit stop from the other team, so we're still confident to have a good race.
You know, Tony, I was in a restaurant last night. Alonso and Raikkonen were in the same restaurant. They gave each other the professional nod. I can only describe it. What do you make of Alonso's mindset here?
Oh, absolutely the same, but the thing is he's now focusing on a win because he knows that the new packages of the aero and the engine are really working well. And he said, why just focus on the podium? He said, I really want to win. I want to show them I am the best. They're smarting a little bit from the McLaren challenges in the last few races.
His record here isn't that great. He was fourth last year. He had that horrible crash when he went into Mark Webber's wreckage a few years back, didn't he?
He was still on the learning curve, of course, there, Jim. But some said he ignored the yellow flags and he was on his way back to make a pit stop towards the end of the race. Fisichella had gone through and a wheel actually lodged itself underneath the car there and he had a massive accident. He was still actually third place, but he wasn't on the podium because he was in hospital. And it's like last year in Monte Carlo when he was too impetuous and he hit Ralf Schumacher in the tunnel and came out shaking his fist. That's all the old days. Everyone's talking about Montoya alongside him there, and Montoya's just something to Michael Schumacher here 4 years ago that shows he loves weaving his way through those CNRSs, doesn't he? Wow, this brought a massive cheer, not just from the crowd because it's the Colombians' local and home event, but the dominance of Michael Schumacher was challenged by this upstart from Colombia. And he loves this place, you know. He won here last year and he's going to go for it. Can he help Raikkonen? He won't help Raikkonen. He's out for a win for himself. He'll think about the constructors after this race. He's not going to help Kimi. Could be the championship decider then, Tony. Just chat us through the grid. Alonso takes his first pole since Silverstone, shutting out Montoya, who won from second last year. A vital third for Renault and Fisichella. Whilst Button struggled with a headwind, he still took fourth. Raikkonen's lock-up cost him pole. He has to fight from fifth. Klein, superb, equals his best, sixth. Schumacher, 7th for Ferrari. His 06 teammate Massa, 8th alongside him. Careful Felipe. 9th Barrichello, starting his 13th home Grand Prix. 10th Ralf Schumacher. 11th Villeneuve. 12th Rookie Montero, his best qualifying yet. 13th Webber. 14th Pitsonia, the villain of Spa. And 15th Coulthard's Red Bull. 16th Narain Kartikeyan's Jordan, and on the 9th row Albers and Trulli's Toyota suffering a 10-place penalty for an engine change. Last row Dornbos, he spun off, while Sato takes a 10-place penalty for lashing out in Schumacher in Spa, and he aborted his lap. Just heard that Jacques Villeneuve will probably start from the pit lane, by the way, more on that in a moment. So then Alonso, championship leader on pole, all set to have number one on that Renault next season. Fittipaldi, the champion back in 72, 5 wins from 12 races, only 61 points. Look at that. Aged 25 years, 8 months and 29 days. Fernando Alonso, 6 wins out of 16, 111 points. Aged 24 years, a month and 24 days. He is around 19 months younger. Well, from the moment Fernando could toddle, you knew he was a natural-born racer.
Now, is your man going to do it today?
Well, I hope so. You're quite right, it is exciting, it is a little bit nervous, but on the other hand, you know, we've got to remain calm. We have got 3 races to do the drivers in, but I think it's probably easier said than done. Yes, we are excited.
Let's face it, he is going to be world champion at some point. What kind of a world champion do you think he'll make?
A very worthy one. I think he's had a great season. You know, every race he's performed so well. Maybe one mistake in the whole year. He's driven races at the front, he's defended, he's attacked. He really has done a great job, and I think he's thoroughly deserving of it.
Is he going to be out there attacking today, or he only needs third place? So is he going to be going for the win?
Well, yeah, he'll be going for the win because it's a lovely way to win a championship, and of course we've still got the constructors to do, and that's a lot harder, and we've got to be aggressive for that one.
We'll be watching it. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks.
A few, though, tickers beating pretty quickly then at Renault. Well, while Alonso races towards his first title at the age of 24, 25-year-old Jenson Button there, the man he replaced at Renault, still has to win that elusive first Grand Prix. At last we know he's going to be staying at BAR. The news confirmed at a press conference here in Sao Paulo. Afterwards, Louise Goodman wondered how the deal had been sorted out.
Now, obviously, money came into it for the settlement, but I don't think it would have just been that. I think it was down to me going to see Frank on many occasions and talking it through, and him realising that, you know, there's no point having a driver here that wants to be elsewhere.
The figure of $30 million has been mentioned as the settlement figure. Is it anywhere in the ballpark?
I can't comment. You know, that was something that was between me and Frank. It's always very difficult to do, as we all know, putting your hand in your own pocket, but that's what I had to do. You know, the contract was between Frank and myself, so it had to come from me. What can you tell us about the new deal with BAR in terms of its duration and that kind of thing? I can't tell you anything. I can tell you it's more than 1 year, and nobody's got to worry. You know, I'm not, because I know I've got more than a 1 year deal with the team. This is where it starts. You know. Are you worried about what this has done for your relationship in terms of your integrity? People can have their own opinion. That's fair enough. I mean, they're going to, but I don't think I should have been criticised for this situation, and definitely not now. I think if I'd spoken to Frank and said, I'm not driving for you, that's it, I'm not talking to you again, let's go to court, whatever, I think that's a very different, you know, situation, scenario. Prove yourself on the circuit and you do the job on the circuit, and they know that you're giving everything, you're determined to reach your goals. I think that's a good thing, and I don't think it's going to be a problem in the future. So it's been a process of maturing for you in many ways. It has, and you do grow up very quickly in Formula One, and it's not just about driving or working with a certain team. It is about business, and you know, I've learned a lot about business over the last year or so. Every driver thinks that he's the best in the world, and I'm no different to that. Now I'm in a team that will give me the chance to challenge for the World Championship in the future, and hopefully that's what everyone wants, to see the next British World Champion, and I'm going to give everything possible to do that.
Well, let's get the Williams view on the whole Jenson Button situation with Technical Director Sam Michael. Sam, do Williams take it as a bit of an insult that Jenson so didn't want to drive for the team that he'd be willing to pay $30 million to get out of a contract?
The exact details of the contract I can't discuss. We definitely don't take it as an insult. It's behind us now, and we're moving on, but I can't go into the details because of contractual reasons.
And where now then for Williams as far as the driver lineup goes?
You'll have to wait and see. Frank obviously wants to make a decision after the end of the season. When he makes that decision, I think we've got a couple of very exciting opportunities for next year, and I think that we'll have something a strong pairing for 2006.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Have a good race.
Cheers.
Well, whoever paid it to Tony, £18 million for Jenson to stay at BAR. Now he's got to deliver on the track, and a win would be nice.
Yeah, but he is mortgaged to the hill. They reckon he's paid about $9 million to get the drive across. But he says, you know, it starts from here. They need to win. They're very conscious of that. But he also said that it's not just about the money. I'd like to be able to tell my grandchildren, I won the World Championship. I won it with BAR. I won it with Honda.
Where do you feel that leaves Williams then?
Well, obviously, Williams are having a very, very hard time. They've lost a sponsor, they've lost Heidfeld, they've lost BMW, but they've gained a lot of money. They might have even got some money from BMW for Heidfeld. They've got V8 and Cosworth next year. They know what they're doing in engines, and Frank and his team know what they're doing. They might have the jump on everybody else with V8, intelligence.
And just quickly, his new teammate next season, Barrichello, will keep Jenson honest, won't he?
Yeah, and they're two of the same, with very smooth, fast driving styles. He's going to have his work cut out. He'll keep his tail up, no doubt.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Down to Louise in the hub of things at Renault.
Yeah, down here on the grid with Jonathan Wheatley, who's the chief mechanic at Renault. Jonathan, how are all the boys? A few nerves around?
Yeah, they're a little bit nervous. I mean, there's still the core group of people here that won the championships back in 94 and 95, but yeah, there's some nerves evident.
Oh, you played a key part in that championship. You worked on Michael Schumacher's car, didn't you? If and when, let's face it, Alonso wins this title, how will it be different for you?
Well, hopefully Flavio will buy us a new engineering truck. No, it's a combination. That's what we're in the business to do. You know, all these guys and girls, everyone who works in this sport are motivated towards winning the World Championship. That's what we're here to do.
It's looking a bit cloudy up there, a few dark clouds up there. Are you nervous about the rain and what it might do?
No, I'm not nervous about it. I just hope we react to it okay.
We'll be watching closely. Have a good race.
Thank you.
There's a bit of tension flying around down there, Tony.
Well, Jonathan has been around for a long time. He's very, very experienced, and he was promoted to chief mechanic. He took that very seriously. They know how to win championships, but it just illustrates that everybody is feeling it. It's a massive team thing to win, not just the constructors and the championship here. They've all been out the back, pacing up and down. Some of them been smoking nervously, and you will focus on your job in the pit stop even more, but you're that bit more nervous. It's more of a chance of a fumble.
And it's good that he's got Fisichella so close to him at the sharp end of the grid.
Yeah, that equals their best joint this year of first and third, and hopefully he'll be able to really back him up during the race, because he's going to need him.
This race always been massive for Sao Paulo's Rubens Barrichello. Hasn't had the best of luck here, apart from his podium last year. It is a Ferrari Brazilian farewell for Barrichello, but he has welcomed a new Barrichello since the Belgian Grand Prix.
And my son was born right on the money after Spa, so I had a great week after some days which you don't sleep very well. I had a tremendous week. The last time when Eduardo was born, I had only a couple of days before I went to Indy. So this time I have 3 weeks to get to know him.
And you've named him after a famous racing driver.
It's nothing to do with Fernando. Obviously, Fernando matched very well with Eduardo, and he looks like Fernando anyway. Not Alonso. He has a face of a Fernando. Eduardo is going to come sometime this weekend just to have a look at the red car. He knows that we're going to a white car next year, so it's his last chance to see the red car.
It would be lovely to finally get a win for Ferrari, because you've got such a bittersweet record at this event.
Exactly. I mean, it's been very, very difficult all the times. I mean, when I came with the Ferrari, I really thought I had a bulletproof car. There's no way I'm not going to finish this time. So, I really thought, okay, 2000, you just go, maybe finishing a podium, second, third, first, and just, with a couple of years, you're winning here in Sao Paulo. And I've been knocking there. And for me, the saddest point here was when I had that problem with the fuel when he stopped, because that year was going to be the year to finish on the first place. Having said that, we're coming back to Sao Paulo with a car that is not as competitive as the past few years. I don't know, you just take it and enjoy the time, and who knows, I mean, Interlagos is full of emotions, overtaking and so on, and it might happen.
It's your home Grand Prix, which is always a special event. Is it going to have that extra poignancy because it's your last race here as a Ferrari driver?
To be honest with you, I don't think so. I mean, it's like changing for a new school and meeting new friends, but I'm up to the challenge. I want to work very hard to make the team a winner and to become a world champion.
Hope it goes well, Rubino. Barrichello 9th on the grid. Massa, who is replacing him at Ferrari, and Pitsonia. There they are, the 3 Brazilians in the race today. Meantime, Alonso's created an F1 frenzy in Spain. They're expecting a TV audience of over 11 million. His home city, Oviedo, set a nationwide trend. There are special screens to follow Fernando as he tries to become Spain's first world champion. Cloudy and overcast at Interlagos, Sao Paulo, just over 15 minutes to go to the start of the Brazilian Grand Prix that could well decide the World Championship. McLaren, a brilliant record, 8 wins in the last 11 races. I believe they've led every lap in the last 3 Grand Prix, but they are chasing today. All Fernando has to do is finish on the podium, and he will be the world champion. One fellow will celebrate afterwards if he does it big time. We're expecting the Flavio dance. There he is with Louise.
Flavio, is it times like this that you feel like taping up smoking again?
Nice suit, the German guy, eh?
Very interesting taste in clothing, full stop. Do you feel like taking up smoking? You're a bit nervous?
No, it is the weather, sure, This circuit is very dangerous. We have very good car. We have good position for the normal race. But you know, if it's raining for us, it's raining for everybody. We need this about. We have 3 races to go, 6 points to make. I mean, if today we make 2 points, I think so. It's great. It's in the budget.
Have you given Fernando any special instructions for today?
No, easy. We need treating this weekend like any other one weekend. Really, it's not the last weekend for us. It's just a weekend, and in the qualify we perform very well. The mechanic and all the people in Renault done an incredible job to develop the car, to have this improvement. I mean, we are quite confident.
Thanks, Flavio.
Just any other weekend. I'm not sure he really meant that, Tony, but there's a little bit of rain coming out of the air. I mean, the forecasters predict just about everything for this afternoon. My impression is that it'll spot more than it'll pour, but what do I know about it?
Well, the local radio stations are giving a 60% possibility of rain this afternoon as we're watching Mark Webber make his way to his car on the grid. But you just have to think what happened with Spa, which started off as damp, you know, and then it dried out only at the end, and lots of people were caught out trying dry weather slick tyres before the track was dry enough, and it caused all sorts of mayhem, as we know. People like Michael Schumacher, if they make those sort of mistakes here, and Alonso, who we're looking at, you know, he made that mistake that we saw, 2 years ago when he had the big crash. It's a tough track in Interlagos. Really going to be a tough race for him.
I think we had similar conditions last year, and Alonso gambled by going out on dry tyres. Let's go down to that grid now and join Martin Brundle.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. I'm super excited about this race. It's going to be a thriller, I'm sure of it. It's actually spitting with rain down here on the grid. And still the track is a little bit damp in places, particularly in front of Montoya's car in second place. I've got a personal theory also. These white lines that are always just in front of pole position also disadvantage the driver. Now, we've got to speak to Mr. Alonso today, I think. Patricia, can we dive in? OK. No, one word, Fernando? OK, understandably, he is completely focused on... he's been standing up on that wall. I think you followed him down, Andy, when you were coming back to the grid. And quite a smart move, actually, because he wants to stay away from the likes of me and not having to answer too many questions. He just wants to stay in the zone, totally focused on taking this World Championship. Now, who might stop him? What is Montoya's strategy today on with his second on the grid here? Juan Pablo, just a quickie. We just arrived. You can't throw us out yet. Well, we're not. I hadn't had an appointment. Okay, what's your strategy? What's your deal today? Focus going for gold, or are you going to play the team game?
You got to play the team game, but hey, if I can win the race, I'm going to go for it. You know, I think we got a quicker car than Renault, and hopefully we can use it well.
Spitting with rain, I'm hearing from local people it might rain 3 o'clock today or something. Is that what you're understanding?
Well, if it rains, rain. If it's dry, dry. No, it doesn't matter. Same for everybody.
Yeah. Now, you've got your ice pack still on the shoulder, yeah? You're still getting some grief from that?
No, it's some foam. Just the holes in the seat, I never feel it.
Yeah, OK. And, OK, well, good luck. So we can expect you to be keeping more of an eye, I think, on Alonso than winning. Hello, Wooly. How are you doing? Right, let's have a word with our man Button, who's fourth on the grid. Oh, there he is. JB, your car seemed ever so slow in a straight line. Then I heard something about a personal gust of wind, if you'll forgive the expression, coming up the pit straight or something. But I don't believe that.
Hey, you should. It's the truth. I was a bit shocked when I got back to the pits. I said, it's just not working on the straight, and looked at the data, and it was wind. The Pito information told us that it was the wind, and I lost 2.5 tenths down the straight, which is quite a lot to my previous best.
Yeah, but you were also 10 kilometres an hour slower than the fastest cars in 2 other speed traps.
Yeah, I think that's about right, that one.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think maybe we're just running a different setup. I think this is what we need to keep the car consistent in the race, and I think other people might struggle. We hope, anyway.
Yeah, because if it rains, you'll be laughing then with a bit of extra downforce. But I think you're going to get mugged down this pit straight.
It'll be smashing. Don't worry.
Yeah, all right. Well, you're more confident about it than I am. Good luck. Let's see who else we can find. And Fisichella there, he is another man with a rear gunner job to do. Oh, hey, nearly a shunt there, Andy. With a rear gunner job to do. Won't bother Raikkonen. He's sitting in the car, won't get anywhere anyway. And Christian Klein, what a job he did for Red Bull in qualifying. And P6, we understand he's got a good amount of fuel on board in this car. He's fighting for his career at the moment. Even his boss over in Austria was giving it plenty of, listen, he needs to up the pace. Well, did he do that in qualifying? And I wonder if we can just squeeze in there. That sounds like enough questions. Bye-bye. Christian, great job in qualifying.
No, absolutely. I put all three sectors together and had really a perfect lap. And I think with that grip position, we can expect a good race.
All right, tell me about the track conditions out there. You're just allowed to do one lap to come here, so you don't really feel the car. But what's the track look like?
All around the track, it's dry. It's no problem. Just exit of turn 2. There are some little wet parts like here, or just damp. And basically, the grid here is the most damp places on the circuit.
All right, so what I'm seeing here is the worst thing. Now, do you feel a bit nervous? You're mixed up in the championship battle here today on this most critical day.
Absolutely, middle of the big boys here, and Raikkonen and Alonso fighting for the championship, so they have to be a bit careful. I have nothing to lose, so I can risk today, and hopefully we get a good result back home.
Give it plenty. Back to you, Jim.
Well, Martin, thank you very much indeed. It is spitting with rain, nothing more than that. The first time I can remember Fernando Alonso blanking Martin on the grid there. Tony Jardine, final thoughts from you. Do you feel it is going to be sorted out, the championship, in the next couple of hours?
I think it will be. You can't say that for certain. Anything can happen, especially in a race like this. But I think it's all going to be sorted out as they go through that Senna S with Alonso against Juan Pablo Montoya and what their rear gunners can do in terms of defence. But it's going to be fascinating.
The great Barrichello had a good race after having so much bad luck here over the years.
Yeah, I mean, finally got on the podium. I mean, 9 consecutive non-finishes. This is his 13th Brazilian Grand Prix. Can you believe that? And he's still going to carry on next year with BAR. Wonderful character.
And Fernando Alonso, I think I detect the first sign of a bit of edginess down there, avoiding the microphones, but he's a transformed character when he gets in that car.
He is, and he's transformed from 04 and 03. All those mistakes have gone, and he adapts to every race, and he's decided he just wants to focus on the start of this race and the Brazilian Grand Prix and see if he can actually clinch it today. Whereas, obviously, Kimi's got nothing to lose whatsoever. He'll do his normal job.
Well, we have an uphill start at Interlagos and then the plunge through the Senna S's. Bit of tension from Flavio Briatore. Alonso cool to the point of detachment, saying he is going flat out for victory. His calculating brain knows if he steps onto the podium after 71 laps, Formula One will have a new world champion. A warning, though, the pole sitter has not won here this century since Häkkinen back in 1999. Montoya won last year. Ice back on the shoulder. He's got the quickest car. He could be a crucial team player for McLaren. Raikkonen messed up in qualifying. He has got to go for it and hope for the very best. Massa led for a lap last year. Button has cleared up his racing future. He is fourth and hoping for a very big score. Settle down, make yourselves very comfortable. You will not want to miss the likely championship decider that is the Brazilian Grand Prix. ITV Sport is in Sao Paulo. Overcast but dry at the moment. We could be in line for a piece of sporting history. Fernando Alonso has been the youngest pole sitter, the youngest Grand Prix winner, and now could be on the verge of becoming the youngest ever world champion. It is the Brazilian Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to Interlagos and this man's possible date with destiny. Well, with all due respect to Michael Schumacher, I think Formula One is ready for a new world champion. The great man has dominated this sport, winning the title every year since 2000. But now, 2 young drivers are the men to beat. And today, one of them is likely to become the world champion, as we've been hearing. 24-year-old Fernando Alonso has given battle to 25-year-old Kimi Raikkonen throughout the season. They put on a fabulous show for us. Both men have won 6 Grand Prix, but there the similarities end, because Raikkonen could certainly have won 4 more if reliability had been on his side, while Alonso has been on the podium 6 times, collecting points virtually at every Grand Prix, and that has been the story of the 2005 World Championship. There's Juan Pablo Montoya. 6,000 Colombians have made the journey over. All the flights from Bogota have been full throughout the week. the only South American Grand Prix, of course, on the calendar. Christian Klein there, 6th place. Stunning performance from him in qualifying yesterday. So Alonso has a 25-point lead over Raikkonen, and that means that any kind of podium finish today for Alonso will make him world champion, regardless of what Raikkonen might achieve. In the Constructors' Championship, that man there, Ron Dennis, the boss of the McLaren team, he has a tremendous interest in that because the battle is much more intense. Renault have led the Constructors since the first Grand Prix at Australia back in March, but now their advantage over McLaren has been whittled down to just 6 points. With a maximum of 54 still available, that means that there's an awful lot to play for in that championship. And I think today's Grand Prix will have a significant effect on both championships. That's your grid. Alonso on pole. Slightly surprised, Martin, I think, to be there. I think he probably expected Raikkonen would go out and do something in the mid 1-minute 11s, but Raikkonen made that mistake, didn't he, under braking into turn 1. But we're told he has flat spotted the tyre, has been allowed to replace it before the start of the Grand Prix.
Yes, they were able to demonstrate that fundamentally it would have been unsafe through the Grand Prix distance. Of course, he had a tyre explode, or in fact it rattled the suspension off, to be more accurate, back at the Nürburgring for the European Grand Prix. So common sense prevails there, and of course that did hold him up on his lap. So we're expecting that Raikkonen has got a lot of fuel on board, and he still is very much going to be a player here this afternoon. But I was so pleased for Alonso. There's been a lot of speculation that, well, maybe the Renault's not as fast as the McLaren, maybe he's not as fast as Raikkonen, and certainly on this programme we've said how unlucky Raikkonen has been this year, because that's a fact. But that doesn't mean to say Alonso's been lucky as such. He's been there, wet or dry, street circuit, high-speed circuit. He's delivered the whole year, made one mistake back in Canada, and if he takes the championship today, it will be 100% deserved, and I'd like to see him do it.
Here to that. Well, there's certainly an awful lot to race for this afternoon, and let me tell you, for those of you who are not familiar with Grand Prix racing perhaps, or not familiar with this track, this is a cracking racetrack. Overtaking is pretty common here. There's lots of places. The main place is into turn 1 at the end of a long uphill straight. There's a big braking zone where they go from 200 miles an hour down to just 60 miles an hour, and that is the place. You can see where those signs are at the end. That's turn 1. Clouds hovering in the sky, but I've been convinced at several points throughout this day that it's going to rain, and then it's just the wind's blown a different direction, it's taken it away, and the threat of rain has receded. The humidity is only 64%, which is about 9% less than it was a couple of hours ago. So the weather forecast changes in this part of the world pretty much every hour, and it would be anybody's guess whether we will get a little bit of rain. There's Jacques Villeneuve. He's one of a number of drivers we need to bring you up to speed with. He had a problem in Parc Fermé with his car, and as a penalty they have made him start from the pit lane. I understand Thiago Monteiro will probably start from the pit lane as well in the Jordan. I understand he has some sort of clutch problem. And Takuma Sato, who took an engine change in addition to a 10-place penalty for a driving infringement at the previous Grand Prix, he's there on the back of the grid at the moment in the BAR Honda, but we're waiting to see exactly what he's going to do.
Well, I think Sauber have been lucky just to have to start from the pit lane, actually. They took a link off the anti-roll bar under Parc Fermé conditions, and that's why they've been penalised and put for a pit lane start. So everybody will have to go past the end of the pit lane there before they will release the cars, because actually it's quite a quick pit exit, so you have to be careful you didn't have an advantage starting in the pits there. But amazingly, they've gone and tried to change the car under Parc Fermé, and all you're allowed to do is change the front wing angle unless the weather conditions change dramatically and they declare different conditions. So Sauber then really pulling a fast one and getting caught from what I can see.
Quite a bit of moisture there in turn 1 and the Senna S down to turn 2 and 3. That could be quite interesting. That's certainly the place where people have a run down the inside to try and make a passing manoeuvre stick. Just to clarify the Parc Fermé regulations, at the end of qualifying, all the cars go into a giant garage basically, and they have to stay there more or less until the start of the Grand Prix. Their teams are allowed to take the cars back and put them in their garage for show purposes and to have a quick look at them, but they're not allowed to do any significant work on them, and that's why the Sauber problem is a significant one, and that's why Villeneuve has the penalty that he has.
Ferrari are saying they've got some local information, no doubt through a bit of help with Barrichello, that it will rain at between 2:45 and 3 o'clock. Race starts 2 o'clock local time here. And you have to say, looking at the sky, I mean, it was definitely spitting with rain on the grid, James. So it's in the air. Whether it'll be significant enough as Raikkonen tries to bring those tyres up to temperature. One of those then has been changed since qualifying. The left front, he locked it up at about 190 miles an hour, and that puts what they call a flat spot on it, a bit like a 50p piece, and it rattles. There's Jenson Button locking his up, but it doesn't have the same effect at low speed because you've not got the downforce pushing the car into the track. So it's not a smart thing to do, but it's not that dangerous at these speeds. But this, I think, is a great challenge for the drivers. The track is damp in places. You can see sort of lines of extra water laying around. They haven't been out today in a Formula One car. They haven't run since single lap qualifying yesterday afternoon. There is no warm-up. They don't want to waste fuel by going round and round before they go onto the grid. And so it really is a cold start. And you saw briefly Thiago Monteiro pulling in the pits in the Jordan.
Yeah, not allowed to refuel the car until the race has started, of course. There are one or two drivers out there who've chosen the softer of the Michelin tyres on display. The two Saubers, the two Red Bulls and Ralf Schumacher. And if there is a little bit of dampness around, it'll favour them. It's a tyre that was particularly fast. If those of you who were watching the Belgian Grand Prix with us a couple of weeks ago will remember that it was a particularly quick tyre there in slightly damp conditions. So watch out for that.
Slow forming up, James. So that's a big problem for those on the front of the grid. When the tail enders were sorting, it looked like one of the Toyotas was slightly out of position. Now they're on their slots, apart from Villeneuve, of course, who's in the pit lane along with Monteiro.
So 71 laps of Interlagos. Raikkonen, Montoya and Alonso is go, and here they come up over the hill right towards us. Montoya has not got a good enough start, and neither has Raikkonen. He goes down the inside though of Fisichella, who goes defensive. Raikkonen up onto the rumble strips, no contact as far as I can see through the field, but Alonso leads. Montoya is second, and it looks as though Fisichella is resisting Kimi Raikkonen. Down the back straight they go. Fisichella goes defensive. He can only move once. Raikkonen's going to try and take him around the outside.
Yeah, he'll not go around the outside of there, but that means with the tight line, it means Fisichella has run wide on the exit, and Raikkonen has punished him for that, and that's a critical move. Straight up to third place then for Kimi Raikkonen. That's a Ferrari that's just about to connect. Michael Schumacher just failing to connect with Fisichella, who clearly got wrong-footed down that straight. So safety car is out. There must be something that didn't get away. It looked a bit thin at the back end of the field.
Pitsonia and Coulthard, we're being told, have had some form of contact. They're shown last on the computer. Just saw a brief shot there of Pitsonia climbing out of his car. And, well, Fisichella wasn't able to resist Raikkonen there, was he? I think Renault would certainly have hoped he'd have been able to hold on a little bit longer than that. Let's take another look at what happened off the grid, Martin.
Yeah, it did seem a bit thin at the tail end, didn't it, after the initial runners were through. Oh, there's the contact. It looked so we've got a Red Bull with a wheel off that went towards the crowd, in fact, and chaos down. It did seem to be a very, very big gap. And we'll see, I think, on the left-hand side of the screen, it's Coulthard and the two Williams. So it is indeed both Williams involved in that, and David Coulthard too. So already 3 drivers out of the Grand Prix.
Coulthard's was strange. The right front tyre looked like it had flown off, but the wheel was still intact. Here's the leader's perspective on the start, and you'll see the contact any moment now. This wonderful camera shoots along the pit lane, and that is, well, we've had a few crashes into that corner. I remember back in '93, Michael Andretti hitting Gerhard Berger and flying up in the air towards that 100 board. Big spectacular crashes into that first corner, and we have a safety car situation here. Alonso leading the Grand Prix. That's Charlie Whiting, who called for the safety car. He's the race director. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, down at Williams, Mark Webber's cars come in and then caught fire in the pit box. The Williams guys straight on it with the extinguishers. Really good work by them. But it looks like something has been damaged, either the diffuser or the exhaust. It's been cracked and the car has caught fire in the pit box, but they put it out. So, well, drama down at Williams.
Looked very much like 3 into 2 doesn't go between Coulthard and the two Williams. It's amazing it doesn't happen more often, actually, when you watch stuff. Particularly, it's quite a bit narrower, this track, than some of the more modern facilities. So both Williams then out of the Grand Prix. Coulthard too. The double whammy is, of course, they'll have to run first in qualifying in Suzuka or in the early stages. And look at that wheel in the background, or was it just a tyre? Wheel too with that Coulthard. And there'll be a lot of flat-spotted tyres back there too with Takuma Sato. And here then is Webber, and a fire from the engine cover, I'd imagine. Wouldn't be at all surprised if there hasn't been something ingressed into the side. That is amazing. It was just a tyre on its lonesome.
Second double retirement for Williams then in 4 races. Very lean period for that team. David Coulthard walking back. There's the safety car. It's coming in at the end of this lap. We'll be green flag racing again. That is the top 8 order. But remember that the Bridgestone tyres on Michael Schumacher's Ferrari and Barrichello's Ferrari don't like these cold for 8 laps, do they?
Difficult to judge this now, James, because Alonso's having to back the pack up. And it's such a long way to the pit lane, he must not pass the safety car. And look, and now he'll just bolt and leave Montoya for dead. But Montoya knows about restarts from his American racing, and he's close enough. And look, Michael Schumacher under a lot of pressure from Fisichella already. There's debris down at the first corner from that incident, surely. And Alonso locks a wheel, but Alonso's gone a little bit wide. He's just back on track for turn 2, but he'll be slow on the exit. Montoya, it's very dirty around the outside, no chance there, it's just too dirty. Now he can come up the inside, he's got more straight line speed. Surely Alonso won't fight him too hard. He's got the better line. Montoya through then to take the lead.
Fantastic pass by Juan Pablo Montoya. Puts the Colombian into the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. And off the restart, we saw Fisichella getting back past Michael Schumacher. As I was saying, the Bridgestone tyres don't like the cold temperatures that drop the tyres go to behind the safety car, and it makes the Ferrari sitting ducks off restarts. Alonso is second, then behind Montoya. Raikkonen third, Fisichella fourth, Michael Schumacher fifth, Button sixth.
Alonso's really struggling as his tyre pressures have gone down. Whether they run lower pressures than McLaren, I don't know, but Alonso does not have the fundamental grip of the McLarens. I think it'll come to him shortly as the tyres build up, but that was relatively easy for Montoya. But immediately Alonso into the next corner, understeered badly too, and that's why Raikkonen is right behind him.
Yep, just 0.4 of a second on the computer, but you can see he's diving down low, having a look at where Alonso is weak and strong. Behind them you see Fisichella in front of Michael Schumacher. Jenson Button then in 6th place. There he is in the BAR. Christian Klein, he's been passed by Button, and he is down in 7th place. Barrichello is 8th. 9th is Ralf Schumacher. 10th Felipe Massa. 11th Sato. 12th Carter Kane, and 13th Jarno Trulli. But a pretty eventful couple of laps at the start here.
And it looks as if Alonso's got the car underneath him. As you say, Fisichella did clear Michael Schumacher. Klein hustling around with Button 6th, Klein 7th now. And looking like he's ready to make another move on Jenson Button, doesn't he? But he's got his mirrors full of Barrichello in the Ferrari. The Ferrari's looking quite handy, aren't they, at this stage? Not in terms of raw pace against Renault and McLaren, but they're looking like they're in the race.
Yep, Michael Schumacher's certainly looking pretty aggressive, as we saw with that pass on Fisichella. Well, Christian Klein wants to get past Jenson Button. A little bit of a train forming up behind Button here. Just 5 seconds behind the race leaders, but Klein's in it, Barrichello's in it, Ralf Schumacher is in it, so's Massa and Sato, and that is the train.
I tell you, I'd be feeling very nervous through these long left kinks with that water on the track. There's plenty of downforce, but sometimes if you just catch a bump wrong on damp patch like that, you can have a very surprising amount of oversteer given the speed that you're doing. But Alonso then, I think his tyre pressures are back up to what he needs. Montoya had the better run out of 3, the inside line. Alonso just needs a podium today, so he's not going to go and lose a wheel up against Montoya, with Raikkonen handily placed in 3rd position. Montoya led by 2 points, 2nd and 3rd, Fisichella 4th.
Well, he's been super aggressive, hasn't he, Juan Pablo Montoya, many times here at Interlagos over the years. If you remember back to 2001, his first year, he put a move on Michael Schumacher into turn 1. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to win that Grand Prix. He collided with a backmarker on that occasion. And last year as well, a battle, straight fight with Kimi Raikkonen. Montoya winning the Grand Prix. He's on target at the moment. He's leading here by 2 seconds from Alonso, who is lapping about a second a lap slower than Montoya. So Montoya's scampering a bit at the moment. Raikkonen is right behind Alonso, as you can see, and they're dropping Fisichella.
Raikkonen just catching quite an armful of oversteer at Junção at the bottom of the hill, and that's allowed Alonso. You can just see that spray kicking up there as the cars with the undertray generating a lot of downforce just sucks the water out of the racetrack and tends to disperse it quite quickly into the air. Louise has found Mark Webber.
Yeah, Mark, what happened there?
Got a reasonable start. Obviously, Ralph was having trouble getting to the grid. I think he lost his he didn't lose his engine, but he couldn't get onto the grid properly, so we were late getting to the grid spot. Obviously, everyone around me was affected as well. Got away okay. Down to the first corner, I think David and Antonio touched, obviously, and then Antonio speared into the right of me.
Further drama for you when you got the car back into the pit lane as well.
Yeah, obviously I was talking to the guys to see, obviously I knew there's bodywork damage, but I didn't know how heavy, and thought we may be able to repair it, but you just never know from the car. So we stopped there, and then of course had to jump out, and Carl said we're on fire. So.
Well, that's the story then from Mark Webber, and he very much was an innocent victim in that from what we could see on the replays. Montoya leads by 3 seconds on lap 6. Raikkonen just behind Alonso. The fuel strategy's yet to play out.
This is lap 9 of the Brazilian Grand Prix, Sao Paulo in Brazil. And we are right in the heart of Sao Paulo, the industrial capital of Brazil. 15 million people live here. And the circuit is actually within the city, next to some of the smartest suburbs. And, well, we've seen an eventful start to this race. Alonso passed by Montoya. He's chasing him now, but a crash at the start involving David Coulthard and 2 Williams. We've heard from Mark Webber. Let's hear now from David Coulthard, who's with Louise Goodman.
Yeah, David's with me down at the back of the Red Bull garage. David, too many cars fighting for the same bit of track there.
Yeah, it's always going to be difficult in those situations. And it'll be very easy, I'm sure, if you do all the interviews. And I think that probably the innocent party here was Mark, who was on the inside. Obviously, I'd got my car, my front wheels in front of his, and in front of Antonio's. And I think Antonio was coming across to the left. And of course, I couldn't go left because Mark was there, and we touched, and obviously we all went out. So unfortunate, but a risky manoeuvre. But I had a better start system, and if all cars maintained position, then normally we could have fought it out in the braking zone, but we never made it there.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, as I say, it's absolutely amazing that doesn't happen more often, because your radar's on, you're looking ahead for cars having incidents or getting away slowly, and tiny little mirrors, you can't, you're only really looking over your rear tyres, so if somebody's coming in at an angle. But definitely keep watching the replays, and just the 2 Williams started to move together. Coulthard got his front wheels in there.
Very unfortunate, as Coulthard said, for Mark Webber, really the innocent party in that one. It's not good news for Webber, because he's had, hasn't he, Martin, quite a few first lap, even first corner incidents during the 2005 season, which hasn't really worked out for him at Williams and BMW. That team going into transition mode, really, for next year. One of the big pieces of news coming out of Interlagos this weekend is the resolution of the contract dispute between Jenson Button and Sir Frank Williams. It means that Button will definitely stay at BAR Honda for, we're hearing, the next 5 years, and he has paid out of his own pocket a large sum of money to Frank Williams to be released from his contract. Some say it's as much as £18 million, others say it's £10 million, but whatever the figure, it's a lot of money, and it shows that contracts do mean something in Formula One, because Williams, although he hasn't got his man, has got settlement and compensation. So Button will be staying put. He's currently staying put in 6th place here, with Christian Klien right behind him. And that's really the first lap that Klien has not been pressuring Button. He's dropped back a little bit now. We're riding on board with Rubens Barrichello in 8th.
Yes, Rubens tweaking one of those many dials on his steering wheel. He can change the differential settings as to how much it locks up going into corners, so it affects the balance, or he can change the traction control, intensity. So there are a number of things he can do from the cockpit, and sometimes we see them in qualifying, changing the car for each corner. In the race, I think he'd be tending just to try and find himself a better balance, but the softer Bridgestones on that Ferrari, both Ferraris, are tending to look quite good, aren't they, in these conditions? We've just got 22 degrees on the track, 24 in the air, humidity stayed the same, so no sign of the rain. But if they're right about their forecast, it's another half an hour away at least. Ted, what can you tell us?
Yeah, down at BAR, a few long faces on the pit wall, Martin. It's exactly the case you were talking about on the grid, that he's running too much downforce. You look at the speeds on the pit straight. Jenson Button 307, 306, 308, that kind of range, kph. All the fastest people, including Michael Schumacher ahead of him, are, well, sort of 315, 316, 317. So he's down on them and no chance on catching up until the pit stops. The good news, the only person who's quicker behind him is Rubens Barrichello.
Well, BAR have come here this weekend with some new aerodynamics, particularly a new front wing. It's been the problem for the car throughout most of the season. Something that McLaren and Renault have got right, with the rule changes lifting the nose of the car up to try and reduce the downforce. Best solution at the start of the season. BAR, Ferrari, others struggled with it. BAR are on front wing number 13 now for the season, just showing how hard they're pushing on the development, and certainly it's transformed the performance of the car here in the eyes of Jenson Button, but they've had to run clearly more general downforce on this car than they would have liked, and as Ted says, they're giving away about 6 or 7 miles an hour down the straight, which means it's going to be tricky for Jenson to pass anybody. But the good news for him is the man behind him is Christian Klein, whose straight line speed is worse than his. So at the moment it's not too big a drama. This is lap 13. Montoya leading then by 4 seconds from Alonso. Raikkonen third, Fisichella fourth. Michael Schumacher looking much more racy than he has of late in fifth for Ferrari. Button is sixth, seventh Klein, eighth Barrichello, as you can see. Then ninth Ralf Schumacher, the fastest of the Toyotas. If you're wondering where Jarno Trulli is, he had to take an engine change yesterday. Problem with the air valve system on his car. And that means he started well down the field on the grid. He had to take the 10th place drop. Started 18th on the grid. Lucky to avoid that melee with Coulthard and the two Williams. He's currently running 13th, Jarno Trulli.
Let's try and read this race then. It's on lap 13. Montoya leads by 4 seconds over Alonso. I believe they're on about the same level of fuel. And they're nip and tuck on times. And Alonso just beginning to creep up on Montoya now, as the Renault appears to be handling that a little bit better at this stage of the Grand Prix. Raikkonen's falling back a bit, but I'm pretty sure he's 2.1 seconds behind Alonso now in third. I'm pretty sure he's going to go something to around lap 28 before he comes in the pit, so he'll reap some benefit from that later on. And Raikkonen has got Fisichella beginning to catch him ever so slowly, so a lot of nip and tuck going on between the two Renaults and the two McLarens.
So lap 14, Montoya leading Alonso, Raikkonen third, Fisichella fourth, Michael Schumacher fifth, Button in sixth place. Lap 16 out of 71 here at the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos, just in the city of Sao Paulo. We're at 800 metres above sea level, and that certainly has an effect on the engine power. All the engines here losing about 8% of their horsepower, around 70 horsepower in total, so it's quite a unique race in that respect. The only Grand Prix we have in the South American continent. At the moment it's being led by a South American driver. Juan Pablo Montoya, winner here last year in a Williams, is leading here in a McLaren ahead of Fernando Alonso, who's aiming to become the youngest ever Formula One world champion this afternoon. He needs just 6 points to clinch it. But the man who's been racing all season, Kimi Raikkonen, is third and looking very menacing, very strong, just 3 seconds behind Alonso. Fisichella, teammate to Alonso, is fourth, locked in that two-way battle between Renault and McLaren for the Constructors' Championship. And then Michael Schumacher, who, as Martin said, is really the one that I think Renault will have their eyes on. He's perhaps the only man that can take that podium away from Alonso here this afternoon. He is in fifth place, but he is a good 10 seconds behind Fernando Alonso at the moment, and not showing the sort of speed he's going to need to challenge for that podium. Jenson Button was fourth on the grid. He's dropped down to sixth, and he's got Christian Klein, who was the standout performer in qualifying, right behind him in seventh in the Red Bull Racing. We've lost David Coulthard, we've lost the two Williams, and 17 cars still running.
Alonso pushing hard. He'll be absolutely sure that Raikkonen's going a good distance further than Raikkonen. Solid pace, but he's missing about 3/10. That's 10 kilos worth of fuel or something around here. So, and Alonso puts in a new fastest lap of a 1:12.8. Raikkonen picks up 2 to a 1:13.0. The lead of Montoya is down to 3.9 seconds now. Alonso happy at this stage. Fisichella's got his pace back. He had a couple of untidy laps, I think. But you're absolutely right. Renault will be, they're sitting really pretty if the weather conditions stay consistent through to the end of the race. He just needs to be P3. He doesn't care if Raikkonen passes him later on. Fisichella's fourth. He's not going to pass him, is he, his teammate? So they're watching Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button, who are a full 12 to 15 seconds behind Alonso on lap 18 anyway. So that third place is looking very, very secure for Alonso to take the World Championship, providing the weather doesn't come and mix everything up.
Well, it's happened before here in Brazil. I think it's the highest percentage of rain-affected races of any in the World Championship. So it can certainly happen. It can come from nowhere in this part of the world. That was Felipe Massa you saw in the Sauber. He's the first of the scheduled stoppers to come in on lap 18. So that's not terribly far into the Grand Prix. He went in qualifying yesterday. So he qualified 8th on the grid, which seemed a good effort, but at least part of the reason was clearly he was running quite light. We're expecting Alonso, Montoya to come in around about 24, 25, that kind of range. But possibly we think Raikkonen might be trying to one-stop this afternoon. That was the word in the paddock this morning. If that's right, he'll be coming in sometime after lap 28 to 30 and gassing it up through to the finish. There is Massa having just rejoined. Teammate Villeneuve slices in front of him, and Villeneuve is in 15th place.
I think Jacques Villeneuve was a bit miffed that he thought his teammate was showboating yesterday with low fuel for qualifying, and he was in fact the fastest Brazilian runner on the grid, but now Villeneuve's gone ahead of him. But he's got a stop to make yet as well, but presumably he's going quite a bit further in the Grand Prix before he has to stop. Carter Kane, his lollipop man, in those very bright overalls. I'm not sure it needs to be that much action going on, because you really, I drove for Jordan, they're the one team you can easily see when you come in the pit lane.
Those yellow uniforms, they attract the flies, don't they, in the summer as well? It's a bit of an inconvenient colour to wear. For some reason, little black flies stick all over you. But that's Thiago Monteiro, Carter Kane's teammate. And that team did quite a bit of testing last week at Silverstone, 600 miles of testing, trying to improve the car towards the end of this season. Next year, of course, they will drop the Jordan name. The team will be known as Midland F1. And quite a few drivers jockeying for position there for a drive. Anthony Davidson, test driver with the BAR, an English driver, is trying to get one of the race seats, and I understand that as they are powered by Toyota engines, there's some thought in Japan that perhaps Toyota might help Takuma Sato, who is now left out in the cold with BAR, with Rubens Barrichello and Jenson Button being the drivers there next year. Perhaps Sato might find his way into a Jordan Toyota seat next year as well, or should I say a Midland Toyota seat next year. So certainly now that Martin has resolved his situation, I expect quite a few drives to be settled in the next few weeks.
Interesting times, because virtually all of the key players were up for contract at the end of next year. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of long-term deals cut at the moment. I find it odd that anybody would sign up anything for 5 years, and I'm just not really talking about Jensen's situation necessarily, but that's a long time to be married to the team. So many things can change in that time. Your crystal ball has got to look an awful long way, hasn't it?
Well, he's just 25 years of age, so he'll be 30 if we've got the word on the street that it's a 5-year contract is accurate. He'll be 30 at the end of that, and certainly into his best years as a Grand Prix driver. He's matured a lot as Jenson Button. Honda have got great faith in him, and they've made him an offer he literally couldn't refuse. And he's going to be a very, very wealthy man. Hopefully he can win a few World Championships and a few Grand Prix along the way, because it's getting on, Martin, for 3 years since a British driver won a Grand Prix, and we really need to put that right soon. We're riding on board with Jacques Villeneuve. That is the Minardi of Robert Doornbos, the 24-year-old Dutch driver, just in front of us. You can see there's still moisture on this racetrack. It's not drying out particularly. It's an overcast, dull sort of day. The light level is very low. I think if we were playing cricket, the umpires would have taken us off by now for bad light. But we're not playing cricket. We're racing cars at over 200 miles an hour, and these guys just get on with it.
Yeah, surprising though, isn't it? The Villeneuve has consistently now for a while been tucked up behind Doornbos, back in the 1:15s. Montoya does a new fastest lap of the race on a 12.8. Alonso responds instantly with a 1:12.6. He's now 3.5 seconds ahead of Raikkonen and just 3.8 behind Montoya. Alonso driving beautifully. Michael Schumacher's hanging around there quite nicely in P5 too, and lapping also in the low 1:13s.
Yes, he's drifted to about 12 seconds behind Alonso, but it's not the gap is not dropping that much. So Michael Schumacher having quite a competitive afternoon here. At the moment, lapping 7 or 8 tenths of a second slower than Alonso on that last one, but that was the fastest lap of the race by Alonso, and that's what you've got to love about this 24-year-old Spaniard. He is so combative. He just loves to race. He loves to compete, and even though he only needs to finish second or third here this afternoon, he's going for the win. You can see Villeneuve going past Doornbos there. So he's made the pass stick. Villeneuve up into 13th place. There's Renault, look, ready for a pit stop. This is lap 22. Which of the two drivers will it be? Well, Fisichella had to go out very early in qualifying yesterday. He will have wanted to get himself to the front of the grid. I wonder if it's him or if it's Alonso. It looks as though it's Fernando Alonso from second place then. Didn't have as much fuel in the car as we thought in qualifying. Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, and let's have a look. Let's see what the guys do. They get to work fueling the first of 2 stops, remember, and there's a small adjustment, a small tyre pressure adjustment in the front tyres, just a tiny bit, just to keep him ticking over. But good stop by the Renault boys, and he's out.
That'll put a smile on the face of the McLaren team. Now we've got to wonder where he is with regard to Michael Schumacher, who's got a completely different package of Ferrari Bridgestone underneath him. This is a dangerous pit exit. It's at full speed because you've left the limit zone way early, and you do have to be careful. That's worked out okay, though. He's just going to come in front of Klein and Barrichello, so it'll minimise his traffic pain. But Alonso then the first to blink of the front runners. And, well, let's wait and see how much further McLaren can go.
So Alonso rejoins in 6th place then. He pitted from 2nd. He's the first of the big names to make his first stop here this afternoon. And he is behind Jenson Button, but in front of Klein and Barrichello. So that's an interesting move. And as you say, I think McLaren will be quite pleased to see that. Ron Dennis this morning was saying, hey, listen, Renault may have come along here with an updated aerodynamics package and a step on the engine, and they may be saying it's pushed them 3 or 4 tenths of a second a lap closer to us, but we still believe we have the fastest car in Formula One, and I think you'll find that out this afternoon. So now is the time, really. Montoya and Raikkonen leading 1-2. Fisichella pits the lap after his teammate for Renault from 3rd place.
Looked like quite a lot of fuel. I wonder if they're making a tactical move there with Fisichella as Barrichello pits in the Ferrari right at the far end. It's a direct line in for them, which does help. You have to say the Michelins look beautiful on the Renault. They don't look as good on that Ferrari of Barrichello, and we hear that Ferrari could be worried about excessive tyre wear in the final stages of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, Ferrari on the Bridgestone tyre, and you can see the left front particularly of Barrichello. Look how bald that's getting. If you're paying attention when Alonso particularly made his stop, the front tyres looked almost brand new. The grooves were there, but Ferrari took a gamble here this weekend. They went with the softer Bridgestone tyre, hoping that the track would gain lots of rubber on it, and that would be kind to the tyres throughout the course of the Grand Prix. The rain overnight was not in the game plan, and that seems to have hurt the tyres, certainly the Bridgestone tyres, in the early part of this Grand Prix. That's the top 8 then. Fisichella pitted from 3rd place, and he has rejoined in 8th.
Raikkonen absolutely flying now. He's in the 1:12s. He knows now he's got track position over Alonso. He knows exactly, of course, how much fuel and therefore relative speed that Alonso had. Montoya going quite slowly at this stage with a 1:14.2. We don't know if it was with traffic as he passes the Sauber of Felipe Massa, so maybe he's just been making his way through the traffic as Klein pits for Red Bull.
Yeah, he had Dornbos and Montero to deal with. I think that's cost him a little bit of time, and Raikkonen was taking advantage of that. Christian Klein, hero of qualifying, and you can see it was a representative fuel load as well, wasn't it, Martin? 24 laps he went into the Grand Prix, further than Alonso, further than Fisichella. That was a terrific job by Christian Klein.
Yes, it was a genuine hot lap, wasn't it? A lot of talk they're going to change qualifying next year. I think Bernie Ecclestone thumped the table and said, OK, you can't agree, so this is what we're doing. And that's how the Circus Master works, and absolutely right too. So we may see a completely different format next year, but the Ferrari ahead of him then after the stop.
Yeah, that's cost him. The Barrichello then has been able to jump Christian Klein as a result of the stops. There are drivers in front of them who have yet to stop, like Ralf Schumacher, for example, and Sato, who are rather messing up the picture in terms of where everybody is. But I think you'll find when it all shakes out that Barrichello has jumped up to a net 7th place, with Klein dropping to 8th behind him. Still on for a point, though, Christian Klein in the Red Bull. Jenson Button yet to stop as well in the BAR. He is currently in 4th place, 11 seconds, though, behind Michael Schumacher, and a very slow lap, that last one, for Jenson, obviously carving his way through some traffic as well. So we'd like to see some real race pace from this new BAR Honda aerodynamic package. It's the one thing that seems to have been lacking a little bit this season. Jenson's been pretty strong in qualifying, particularly of late, but the pace has faded in races, and that's certainly something that if they want to challenge for wins in the World Championship, that BAR Honda really do have to get on top of.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to say it looks a bit like a barn door that they put on, because it's they've gambled on the range. There's no sign of it. Oh, and there's a rather different approach to the braking zone there And how close was that? So easy to do. You only need to brake 5 minutes later, 5 meters later than the driver in front, and your closing speed can be 100 miles an hour. Michael Schumacher then pits. It's lap 27.
Yeah, that was Alonso behind one of the Minardis. Presume it was Christian Albers. Michael Schumacher pits for Ferrari. Jenson Button also pits for BAR. He was right behind Schumacher coming in. You can see the BAR mechanics. And that's Schumacher's fuel prediction as he rejoins. This time last year, Ferrari and Schumacher had it all done and dusted. Both world championships in the bag. Different story here. That is Fisichella in the Renault. They're racing for position. Out comes Michael Schumacher. Fisichella is on the outside. Schumacher on the inside. Don't cut away. What are you doing? Ralf Schumacher, fine pit stop. There's a pass going on there. Oh, and he can't make it. Fisichella couldn't get it. Michael Schumacher is in front of Giancarlo Fisichella.
That's for a net 4th place, isn't it? That's a change for 4th place. So Schumacher looking good. His left front tyre doesn't look too handy though at this stage of the Grand Prix. We're not at half distance yet. So but Michael Schumacher gets out, whether they short-filled him or whatever he did, it's got him in front of Fisichella, which neutralises Fisichella to be out there helping Fernando Alonso. So I think we're right in what we said earlier on in the show, James. Renault have got to keep an eye on Schumacher this afternoon. I don't think Button's quite got enough pace to spoil their party.
That'll be very interesting to see what Michael Schumacher can achieve here this afternoon. He's made his stop, so has his teammate Rubens Barrichello. It's been a patchy season with success obviously in the rather odd American Grand Prix at Indianapolis, where only 6 Bridgestone cars took the start. But apart from that, he's been on the podium a couple of times. Canada was a high point. Hungary, where Michael Schumacher took pole position and finished in 2nd place as well. It's not all been about the tyre situation. Bridgestone have been beaten this year by Michelin, there's no doubt about that, but it's not all been tyres. Ferrari have built an average car, it's fair to say. And into the pits comes the race leader, Juan Pablo Montoya, on lap 28. He went further into this Grand Prix then than many people in the paddock were predicting. That's another terrific qualifying lap then by him, once you realise how much fuel he was carrying. And what about Raikkonen? He's still out there. He takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Is Montoya 2-stopping? Yes, he is. That means he'll have to come in again before the end of the Grand Prix. Watch that stopwatch when Raikkonen comes in, because if we're right, anything over about 11 seconds will mean he's going to make only 1 stop here this afternoon, and that will put him in a very strong position. From where he is now, I'd be surprised if he did anything else, actually.
Let's wait and see. It's a lot of fuel to carry. And we've seen Alonso go out with a heavy fuel load and drop back into the 1:14, so he's losing 1.6 seconds per lap. So if you're always wondering why run longer, what is the advantage? Well, your car's light after the other guys just filled up, and it's costing. So for every lap that Raikkonen has run longer than Alonso, he's made about 1.6 seconds. That's an enormous amount of difference. But to gain him over 10 seconds, of course, Raikkonen is still out there too. So I don't think they'll necessarily swap Montoya and Raikkonen over yet, unless Raikkonen's just playing faster in this next phase, until they see if Alonso's going to take the World Championship anyway with P3. I think they'll just let Montoya carry on and win the Grand Prix. A 1:12.2 for Kimi Raikkonen. How hard is he pushing now? He'll just win it all under his own steam anyway with that kind of pace.
Well, it's been an amazing month or so for Kimi Raikkonen. He's won 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix. McLaren have won 4 of the last 5. And I'm sure they will feel that both championships really should have been theirs. They built, since round of this year's World Championship, they have had a faster car than Renault, who started the season extremely strongly. And what's been impressive with Renault is they've kept the development going. They've kept putting pressure on McLaren. And McLaren took a few gambles, perhaps with reliability, particularly of the engine. That's where Raikkonen lost a lot of potential wins. And that's why he's in the position he's in. Louise Goodman, what can you tell us?
I'm down at the Williams garage at the moment, and I can tell you that Mark Webber has now made his way back out onto the track again after that accident that he had at the start of the race. The team have had to do a fair amount of work. They've had to change the engine cover and the top rear right wrist bone on the car, and generally give it a good check over and a clean up as well. But he has rejoined the race to try and improve his grid position, or the time he goes out for qualifying when we get to Japan.
His problem is that nobody else has retired at this stage. He's 24 laps behind the next guy, which is Montero, who's P17. So unless something bizarre happens, Mark will be... There is Mark. Webber in the Williams. He'll be lucky to gain 1 or 2 places. It's worth a try, isn't it?
Certainly is. It's a strange system we have at the moment. It seems so much of an extra penalty if you go out of a Grand Prix. That's bad enough, but it means that you have to go out early when the track is dusty and slippery at the beginning of the qualifying hour of the next Grand Prix. So it's a double whammy, really, a double penalty. And there you can see Webber pushing on, having rejoined the Grand Prix. Montoya, a lock-up of the right front. And that looks quite a painful one as well. The tyre starting to show that wear, and McLaren ready now on lap 31 for Kimi Raikkonen. Quite a lot of drivers having little lock-ups there. Villeneuve in front of Kimi Raikkonen there, having a lock-up into the Junckau corner. But there is the race leader on lap 31 coming in, and the big question is how much fuel is he going to put in this thing?
Yeah, as the tyres wear down, they lose temperature because the temperature's generated from the rubber moving around with the friction, and that's why they start to lock up as the race unfolds. And you have to be so careful coming into your pit box like that, not to snatch a wheel. Always tends to be very slippery, more of a concrete surface there. The tyres looking okay, a lot of rubber debris falling into the grooves. Front brakes, extremely hot. I was also interested to see Montoya, when he locked a brake early on, his rear brakes are actually glowing red too. So running a lot of rear bias, and usually to try and stop some of that. And Montoya has maintained the lead, hasn't he? Was that Montoya went through there? Now that surprises me because Raikkonen was putting in such incredible laps, but Montoya does indeed retain the lead of the Grand Prix.
Well, that's a very, very interesting thing. The stat there said that he put 30 laps of the fuel in, but there's only 40 to go in the Grand Prix, so does that mean he's going to come and pit 10 laps before the end? Maybe that's the strategy. Maybe the stopwatch misread it, maybe the nozzle wasn't quite on in time, but certainly it didn't look like enough fuel to take him to the finish of this Grand Prix. McLaren then doing something a little bit different. Montoya is back in front, much to the delight of the 6,000 Colombians here. McLaren aiming to be the first team in a proper Grand Prix this season to get a 1-2 finish. Long way to go yet, though. Approaching half distance in the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos, the city of Sao Paulo. Two McLarens are leading. Juan Montoya is in front. Kimi Raikkonen had a brief spell in the lead when Montoya came in for his first pit stop, but Raikkonen not able to do enough in the 3 laps before his own stop to make the difference to overtake Montoya. Currently, Alonso is in 3rd place. If he finishes there, he's the new world champion, and he'd be the youngest world champion ever as well. At 24 years and 58 days, he would beat Emerson Fittipaldi's record by well over a year. It's pretty inevitable anyway, given that we've got 2 Grand Prix left in this season, but all Alonso needs to do is to finish in 3rd place, and because of that, that means we've got a real genuine race at the front between the 2 McLarens, Montoya and Raikkonen, because there's no point in Montoya letting Raikkonen through. It won't make any difference to the championship as things stand. So those 2 are racing each other. Michael Schumacher is the danger man as far as Alonso is concerned. He was quite quick earlier on. His pace has dropped off a little bit, but he's in 4th place, and Fisichella is 5th. Villeneuve comes in for his first stop of the Grand Prix on lap 35, and the only man then who has not stopped is Takuma Sato, who started from the back of the grid, having taken an engine penalty. He obviously filled that car up with fuel. He's currently running in 6th place at the moment.
Yeah, I meant to mention a bit about Sato earlier on, because he was running nicely 10th, 11th with some good lap times, clearly one stopping to try and make something out of the day, and currently running ahead of Button, and they've both got to stop one more time in the Grand Prix. So we'll see whether Sato will have a heavy fuel load when he does stop. But Montoya's lead just 2 seconds at the moment, and Alonso 9.8 seconds behind them, and that Minardi has been threatening to run out of oil for some time now.
Robert Dornbos celebrated his 24th birthday on Friday, but he won't be celebrating here on Sunday. That looks like the Cosworth engine in the back of that car that will be taking no further part in this Grand Prix. A lot of smoke and dust. But it's unseasonably cold out here by normal standards for Brazil. It's only 23 degrees, the air temperature. We're used to coming here and being muggy, but well, they're just coming out of their winter. It's a little bit of an unusual time to come to Brazil towards the end of September. I understand that there's some talk that next year's Brazilian Grand Prix might even be as late as the first week of November. Perhaps Bernie Ecclestone and the team's extending the calendar a little bit to allow a few more breathing spaces, not quite so many back-to-back Grand Prix. Certainly, if we do come back first week in November next year, it'll be an awful lot hotter than it is today.
Barrichello and Button 7th and 8th at the moment, lapping in the 15s. The leaders are in the 1 minute 13s. So Jensen did not have the race pace he was hoping for. He's about 10 kilometres per hour slow in the first speed trap. He really is losing a lot of time in the straights. And no sign of the rain that he needs to fall.
Yeah, certainly the Ferraris are looking a bit more racy today than they were on Friday in free practice. Jenson Button saying both on Friday afternoon and yesterday that he believed that the BAR was the third fastest package here this weekend after the McLarens and the Renaults, but it looks to me on race day as though it's the Ferrari that's the third fastest package here. Those are the gaps you can see. Michael Schumacher is almost 20 seconds up the road from Jenson Button, and remember, Button started 4th on the grid, Michael Schumacher was 7th, so it's quite a comprehensive turnover by Ferrari and Schumacher here this afternoon on BAR Honda.
Yeah, you have to say BAR have flattered to deceive a bit in qualifying lately, haven't they? They just haven't had the race, the raw race pace. But we know they've got a pretty strong engine in there, so clearly they've got a bit of work to do on their race setup, race strategy as such. Montoya's lead maintained at 2 seconds, and Alonso, they all did the same time. The 3 leaders did exactly the same time, 1 minute 13.7. Michael Schumacher still handy on a 1:13.8. But Alonso surely has got it where he needs it. He's 16 seconds ahead of 4th place man Schumacher, and he's got what he needs at the moment.
I know the teams and drivers always use the gap between themselves and the leaders, the great barometer of their paces. Takuma Sato pits from 6th place, and this will drop him back. There's a big train of cars just going through. That's his bad luck. He's going to come in right at the back of them, behind Ralf Schumacher. He'll be somewhere near Jarno Trulli, I believe, when he comes out, and that's 11th place. Takuma Sato will rejoin around there. Trulli goes through now.
The BAR Lollipop man did a great job there, because the fuel rig looked like it was on its way out and wouldn't come cleanly out, and he spotted that and would not release him. I'd hate to do that job. I'd hate to be a refueler, and I'd hate to be on the Lollipop. Such a lot of responsibility.
Now, we're all right where we are, Martin, up here, just watching it all and giving our views on it. So that's definitely the best place to be. Juan Pablo Montoya there, the race leader. We're into the second half of this Grand Prix, and I was just about to say that the teams use the barometer of how far they finish behind the leader. There's a great barometer of where they are, and at the moment, just over half distance, the Ferrari is almost half a minute behind the McLaren. So that'll be a full minute if it carries on at the same rate at the end of the Grand Prix. That's a lot of time to be giving away. And Jenson Button's 47 seconds behind the race leader. That'll be a minute and a half. He'll be behind the 2 McLarens at the end of the Grand Prix if they maintain the current relative pace to each other. And that is a heck of a lot of time to make up.
Yeah, this McLaren has been the class of the field for some time now, hasn't it, in terms of pace. And, well, can they take one of the championships? Looking pretty handy at the moment, isn't it? They're 1st and 2nd. Renault 3rd and 5th. So that's quite a big points net gain, and somebody's locked up in front of the leading McLaren. Don't know whether it was the Toyota, but anyway, we've got around the corner. Raikkonen the gap down to 1.5 seconds now as he comes towards lapping the Toyota of Jarno Trulli. The Toyota really badly off the pace today.
Well, if it stays the same as it is now with the McLaren 1-2 and a Renault 3-5, then Renault would have 162 points in the Constructors' Championship and McLaren 164. And that would mean that McLaren would go away from here in the lead of the Constructors for the first time this season. Renault have led it ever since Giancarlo Fisichella won that Australian Grand Prix back in Melbourne. It's been an amazing year really for Renault. They're certainly not going to go down without a fight in this championship. They've got a lot of updates to come on the car, the Japanese and the Chinese Grand Prix, but it looks to me from what we're seeing here in Brazil as though this McLaren still has quite a performance advantage. Montoya 10 seconds ahead of Alonso now. Carving their way through some traffic then, Takuma Sato and Jarno Trulli in 10th and 11th places become the latest victims of the McLaren train, a fast-moving train here at Interlagos. It's got 31 laps to go before it reaches its destination. Lap 43 of the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you, Louise Goodman and Ted Kravitz in the pits, and this is the scrap between the BAR of Jenson Button and stand at the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello. It's a battle for 6th place. It's the closest battle really amongst the front runners on the field so far. It's a points-paying battle as well, of course. Jenson Button going for his 8th consecutive points finish, so BAR looking strong in that sense, keeping the scoreboard ticking over, but the pace hasn't really been there for either BAR or Ferrari relative to the front runners. Montoya, you can see, is leading the Grand Prix from Raikkonen, and Montoya's having a really strong close to the season because he won the British Grand Prix, he won in Monza, and then in Spa he was leading, but obviously played a tactical game and allowed his teammate Raikkonen through to win. Here again in Brazil, for the 3rd race in a row then, he has been the stronger of the 2 McLaren drivers, but because he's not the championship contender, obviously he's had to give the wins away. But as things stand, Fernando Alonso is currently in 3rd place. There's his Renault team watching this Grand Prix, and Alonso, if he can stay where he is just 28 laps away from becoming the new world champion, regardless of what Montoya and Raikkonen may do at the front.
Montoya's lead up to 3.1 seconds. Alonso he's got it back a little bit. He's just 8.4 behind 2nd place man Raikkonen. He's keeping a nice distance back to Michael Schumacher. Fisichella really could... Oh, that looks a bit close, doesn't it? Is that Button and Barrichello? I think it must be. I would imagine it is indeed. So I would imagine Jenson got caught down the pit straight, and Rubens got himself a... here we go. Yeah, caught at the end of the pit straight. Rubens later on the brakes has stuck one up the inside, just about run into Jenson, gives him a squeeze to put him offline and takes the place. So Jenson falling further down the field, as is Klein in 8th place. Klein is coming under pressure from Ralf Schumacher anytime soon for the final point.
It's interesting as you take another look at it and see how close they were going through the Senna S, the corner they take at around 70 or 80 miles an hour. But Barrichello pointed up his index finger, just his left index finger up in the air as he went down the back straight. I have no idea what he was doing with that. He wasn't pushing a button, he just seemed to be indicating something. But Ted Kravitz has got some news for us down in the pits.
Yeah, I'm down at BAR. It's just that straight line speed deficit of the BAR again. I just caught a word with team boss Nick Fryer, said, what's going on? What's wrong with Jenson? He said, nothing wrong. It's just that we're not quick enough. Well, you can say that again. At least Jenson's got a bit of clear air behind him. But, well, can he make up any places from here? Doesn't look like it.
Thanks for that, Ted. I'd imagine Rubens was sort of gesticulating to the grandstand at the back. Probably all his cousins in there. He used to live, didn't he, just the other side here of the racetrack, as Alonso takes himself another back marker as a prisoner down into turn 4, Takuma Sato. So Alonso has fallen now just back to 9.5 seconds actually behind Raikkonen as he's gone through the traffic. 12.9 seconds behind leader Montoya.
Only 9 cars on the lead lap as we're at 3/4 distance in this Grand Prix. The pace has been pretty hot at the front. Certainly the 2 McLarens are going for it here. Montoya versus Raikkonen. It's a repeat of what we had here last year. On that occasion, Montoya was driving a BMW Williams, Raikkonen a McLaren Mercedes. Now they're teammates, and it's Montoya who leads by 3 seconds from Raikkonen, but they're on slightly different strategies here. Montoya pitted earlier than his teammate by 3 laps and put in less fuel, so Raikkonen is going to pit quite late in this Grand Prix for the 2nd time. He's giving himself quite a long time between Montoya's 2nd stop and his own to try and make the difference, and I think if he's going to try and win this Grand Prix, that is the time he's going to have to do it before his own 2nd stop here this afternoon. That's Mark Webber, who was involved in an accident down the straight into the first corner, the first lap of this Grand Prix, with David Coulthard's Red Bull Racing and Antonio Pizzonia in the Williams, and they were both eliminated. But Webber had some repairs to the car and is out there just trying to improve his qualifying slot for the next Grand Prix. At the moment, the best he can hope for is that he'll do more laps than Robert Dornbos did, and that'll mean he'll go out 4th in qualifying at Suzuka. Pizzonia, Coulthard and Dornbos confirmed retirements from this Grand Prix. 17 still running then, and Montoya, you can see the margin now. And really, Martin, that 13 seconds that he's got over Alonso, a lot of that came from the pit stops. It was only about 4 seconds clear, wasn't he, before the pit stops, and Alonso lost 7 seconds at that time, and that's what dropped him right back.
Absolutely. Mark Webber will be gutted if in Suzuka it rains after the 3rd car, won't he? And the 4th man gets the weather or something. it's the luck of the draw. But you've just got to hope you can get a slightly better run. And obviously as each car passes over the racetrack, cleans it, lays a little bit more rubber down. But you're in the lap of the gods with the weather. 3.2 seconds was Montoya's lead. He's moving now into lap 48. It's now 3.6 seconds over Raikkonen, and Alonso 10 seconds further down the road. It's pretty status quo, but Raikkonen, I don't know, he just really hasn't had the pace of Montoya, has he, through the race? It's not been as sparkling in terms of absolute pace, except for when he was in that zone doing low 1 minute 12s, and it was 3/4 second quicker than anybody else at that stage. We haven't seen that, although we think he's still running more fuel at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Felipe Massa then, first man to pit. First time round, becomes the first man to pit. Second time round as well. And he rejoins. Massa running in 13th place in this Grand Prix. But getting back to the discussion about Montoya and Raikkonen, I mean, as I was saying before, Montoya's had the upper hand in Monza and at Spa, and now here again at Interlagos. It's Raikkonen who's being hailed as being, by his team boss Ron Dennis, as being the driver of the year. But I have to say, Montoya's had a few mistakes, a few problems early in the season. Broke his shoulder in a leisure accident, whether it be tennis playing or motorbiking, no one's really quite sure. But certainly was a setback early on. But he's bounced back strongly, and as we go into the final Grand Prix of the year, he is every bit a match for Kimi Raikkonen. It promises a lot for next year. Here's the world champion-elect then, Fernando Alonso. From third place then, he pits. He's got an 18-second margin over Michael Schumacher. That will not be enough for him to rejoin in front of the Ferrari, but obviously he will take the place back when Schumacher pits. The tyres looking pretty good.
He's so calm, Alonso. Pat Simmons was saying that, wasn't he, in the press conference, that he's got such a mature head on him. And he didn't go and attack the speed line, he didn't blip the engine at the pit stop there, just total professional maturity, which is what's got in this far in the World Championship.
Yep, he rejoins fifth then, behind Michael Schumacher's Ferrari there you can see, and his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella in front of him, so Alonso fifth. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the thing that is just so amazing about Alonso when you talk to him is you forget that he's only just turned 24. You feel like you're talking to a much, much older person. He's very calm, he's extremely intelligent, and well, what a career he's had. It's been a pretty meteoric rise through the ranks to Formula One. He first started driving when he was 3 years old. His father bought a go-kart for his sister, who was 4 years older, and she didn't fancy it, didn't enjoy it really, so she said no, not bothered. Fernando, the 3-year-old, was saying, hey, adapt it for me. So they put wooden blocks on the pedals, they put a cushion on the seat, and Alonso started driving around the garden in Oviedo, in the Asturias region of northern Spain, and he had the bug from that very young age. Started racing go-karts when he was 7, and by the age of 16 he was the world kart champion, and from then on Flavio Briatore picked him up, brought him into Formula One, and now he's on his way to becoming the youngest ever world champion. His teammate Fisichella pits.
So what I think is especially telling is Fisichella here. He's a handy peddler, and has won this race before in a bizarre circumstances with Jordan. He's 70 points behind Alonso in the championship at the start of today, and in this race he's already 20 seconds behind him. I think that's a gauge of just what a good job Fernando Alonso's doing.
Certainly is. Very, very good job indeed. I was talking to him on Friday and saying, well, how do you manage this weekend? I mean, do you wake up and the first thing you think about is I'm going to become world champion on Sunday? And he said, no, not at all. It's really very easy because my team is completely focused on winning this Constructors' Championship, and whatever happens, that's not going to be resolved until the final race in China, and I'm caught up in all that really. I'm thinking about China more than I'm thinking about winning this Drivers' World Championship this weekend, and I think that's given him a little bit of a relaxation, a mental relaxation. It's taken the pressure off Alonso, as a result of which he's been able to drive absolutely beautifully this weekend. Little lock up there from Barrichello.
That's Barrichello hustling Fisichella. It is for position at this time, 5th and 6th, but Fisichella's just made his second stop, and so that's why he's up behind him. And Pitts, he was just beginning to, when the bit of clear air, just beginning to go faster than his teammate Michael Schumacher. Pretty skinny on fuel, quite clearly, in chance he's stopping. Oh, that's what I was talking about earlier. It's so easy to snatch a front wheel later on in the race when you've got the tyre where you can see his right front. It's sort of smeared the rubber all over the grooves, hasn't it?
Wouldn't have wanted to be the front jack man then when he started sliding towards him. And he's been hit before by Michael Schumacher a couple of years ago. It does happen. Obviously, the drivers take every precaution as they come into the pits, but they're racing, and particularly Barrichello, as you say, it's the first time really in this Grand Prix, now he's got some clear air, that he was putting in faster lap times than his teammate Michael Schumacher, and that's kind of what we would have expected really, because right up to yesterday's qualifying session, Barrichello was the faster of the two Ferrari drivers, but he had a problem in qualifying yesterday, and he was very unhappy about it, wasn't he, Martin? He was after saying totally unacceptable that the team had got the tyre pressures wrong for him on his run, and the car basically just couldn't balance it. So although he'd been quicker than Schumacher through practice, slower than him in qualifying.
Yeah, it's not the sort of thing you heard Ruben saying when he was fully contracted, but he is moving, isn't he? Next year to BAR, and he had been having quite a good tussle with his new teammate, or future teammate, Jenson Button, but he's cleared that now, he's ahead of him, and is running what is a net P6.
Here then is the race leader, Juan Pablo Montoya. We've got 6,000 Colombians have made the trip here. There are 2 flights a day out of the capital of Colombia, Bogota, and I'm told that they have been fully booked up and full for over a week. People have even been flying here from different cities around Central and Southern America to make sure that they could get the date. Even this morning there was a flight that arrived with a bus picking them up and bringing them directly to the racetrack, and they certainly like to make some noise, the Colombian fans. And at the moment their man has the upper hand, 4.3 seconds over this man, Kimi Raikkonen, World Championship contender. Through the Ferradura corner goes Raikkonen, about 120 miles an hour on the turn in, up to La Rancha, 45 miles an hour down the hill. Pinerino, slow, fiddly corner, 55 miles an hour, up to the Bico de Pato, the Duck's Bill, a sort of hairpin shaped corner, shaped a bit like a duck's bill really, hence the name. Mergulo downhill, and then one of the most important corners on the circuit here, Juncao, taken just 60 miles an hour, but the drive out of there is so important for the straight line speed here.
And look at his head, James. He's leaning his head up against the side of the cockpit with this never-ending series of left-hand kinks up onto the top of the hill where the pit straight is, and Raikkonen definitely beginning to suffer with the left-hand side of his neck on this anti-clockwise racetrack.
Well, his lap time's comparable with Juan Montoya's. That last time through he was just 1/10 of a second slower than his teammate, who's 4.4 seconds ahead of him. And we saw a little bit, just talking you through some of those corners there. This Interlagos track is a little bit like Indianapolis in the sense that it's got a split personality. It's that very fast high-speed section up the hill into turn 1, and then a tight twisty infield section as well. This is one of the few high-speed corners, the Ferradura. And so what you require from a car to go well here is rather a split personality. It's quite difficult to set the cars up for this racetrack, and obviously, as we've been hearing with BAR, getting the right amount of downforce, the amount of wing on the car is absolutely critical for grip in the slow sections and acceleration and speed, top speed on the long straight. Look at Raikkonen, he really is struggling with that neck, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 4.4 seconds adrift. I assume it's going to be Montoya that pits for fuel anytime soon, so this is Raikkonen's chance to flat it one more time. Montoya does pit, and we'll see how much further Raikkonen can go, and he's showing just half a second behind as he went over the line. That's because, of course, Montoya's had to slow the car down to the pit lane speed limiter.
Montoya exits the pits then. He is in a straight fight with his teammate Kimi Raikkonen for the victory here this afternoon. Michael Schumacher is currently in 3rd place, yet to make his 2nd stop of the afternoon, and Fernando Alonso is 4th. He'll be hoping that Ferrari comes in soon to give Alonso the 3rd place he needs to become world champion. 17 laps to go. Just 15 laps to go in the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos. It's been quite an afternoon. At the moment, Fernando Alonso is on target to become the youngest ever world champion. He's in 3rd place. That's all he needs. Any podium place today will give the title to Alonso. There is Ralf Schumacher pitting from 6th place. He's in a battle with Jenson Button at the moment, and it's going to be quite interesting to see where Ralf comes out. They're scrapping over 7th and 8th places, final points positions here. Kimi Raikkonen is pushing hard. His teammate Juan Montoya made his pit stop, his second pit stop here before Raikkonen, and these are the crucial laps then for Raikkonen to be able to attack with an empty track and try and emerge from his own second stop in front of his teammate Juan Montoya. It's a straight fight between the two McLarens, no team orders, no instructions, because as things stand, Alonso's world champion anyway with that third place.
That's for position. Ralf Schumacher has passed Christian Klein, and I believe he will now be P8 and looking down the road for Button and Barrichello. So Klein, having started 6th, has dropped out of the points.
Well, Fernando Alonso started on pole position. He led Juan Pablo Montoya on the first lap, but we had a safety car almost straight away for an accident involving David Coulthard and the 2 Williams of Mark Webber and Antonio Pizzonia. Webber did manage to get going again after a while, and he is still circulating out there, trying to improve his qualifying position. After the safety car went in, Montoya passed Alonso quite dramatically and boldly into the late descent corner to take the lead of the Grand Prix. And since then, it's been him and Raikkonen duking it out for the overall victory. Raikkonen has led when Montoya's made pit stops, but apart from that, the race has been really Montoya's. There's Thiago Monteiro, and that's really rotten luck for him because he was going for the record 17 consecutive race finishes, equaling Michael Schumacher, and that looks like an engine failure to me. Smoke coming out the back of that car, so Monteiro will not be able to take that record. Looking at the Minardi there of Albers, it's been a case of after Montoya passed Alonso, he had to then fend off Kimi Raikkonen, but he lost second place to Raikkonen in the fuel stops. The McLarens have been the faster car here this afternoon, although Renault have brought along an improved package of aerodynamics and engine. It's not been enough to get them on McLaren's pace. McLaren have the speed here. Alonso 25 seconds behind Juan Montoya at this stage of the Grand Prix.
Well, Kimi's made some time, about 0.8 of a second per lap, so it's going to be quite close. I'd be surprised if he's done enough to get ahead of Montoya on this pit stop. We'll find out shortly. Ted's down there.
No, there's no way he's done enough. You need about 16 seconds plus the stop time. And Martin, it is a very quick stop because we saw that Kimi did a long middle stint, but surely that's not enough. As you say, it's immaterial because Alonso safely in third at the moment. But
well, Ted coming out now. Sorry to interrupt you, but they're side by side as they come down. It looks to me as though Montoya has got the lead. Raikkonen up to speed on the inside. Montoya on the left, Raikkonen on the right. And Montoya has done enough in these laps to maintain his advantage. Raikkonen will get that sinking feeling. Little twitch from him there at the apex of late descent corner. A frustration possibly, who knows. But Montoya has been the stronger driver here this afternoon. And well, as long as Alonso's sitting there in third place, which means he's world champion anyway, there's no reason for McLaren to do anything with the order of these two cars, and that will mean that for the second year running, if he can maintain this, Montoya will head home Raikkonen at Interlagos. Last year they were driving different cars. This year, so much the sweeter for Montoya, they're driving the same car.
Well, I think there could be a good race there actually. They may as well just go for it with Alonso where he is. Kimi's head's gone, his neck has gone, not his head. But in all of the left-handers now, he's struggling to keep his head up. And I'm sure he's just resting it to a certain extent down the straight. But that definitely slows you down in the midfield section here of this quite tricky lap. And well, if I spot it, even now you can see that he's not leaning into the corner as such. So it's like a double whammy. It really starts giving up on you badly. Then your shoulders go after that too. But he's got to hustle. He can still beat Montoya.
Well, we had a piece with Mark Blundell training with Kimi Raikkonen, just showing how fit modern Grand Prix drivers are. The reason they need to be so fit is that they have so much G-forces. Blundell has done the dietary section of that feature, and you'll be able to see how he fares on the bicycle and in the gym at the next Grand Prix in Suzuka. And, well, I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to work out that Mark falls some way short of fitness of a modern Grand Prix driver. But here today, you'd have to say, Raikkonen does seem to be struggling a little bit with that neck. But is he going to have a go at Montoya? That's the question. 11 laps to go here. And remember, there is another championship at stake, the Constructors' Championship, in which if things stay as they are now, McLaren will go away from this race, leading the Constructors by 2 points over Renault. It'll be the first time this season that Renault have lost control of the Constructors. Norbert Haug there in the leather jacket on the pit wall, boss of Mercedes, and Ron Dennis as well. And McLaren are looking for their 5th win in 6 Grand Prix here. It's been a very strong end to the season for the McLaren Mercedes team. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, just wanted to update you with the evil handling BAR and Jenson Button. They made such a lot of changes at the pit stop. They took out front wing, they made pressure adjustments to the front and the rear tyres. It seems to be working, but now he's got another problem. Ralf Schumacher is the one chasing Jenson Button.
Yes, he's just 2.9 seconds behind, well spotted, Ted. So Button may even end up 8th in this Grand Prix, especially if the Toyota's got a bit of straight line speed coming down here into turn 1. Montoya was just 0.6 up on Raikkonen. He made a further 3/10 in the first sector, middle sector coming up anytime soon. And they're still pushing hard, they're still doing competitive lap times.
Certainly are. 17 cars still running in this Grand Prix. Mark Webber is the, 16 cars still running in this Grand Prix because we've lost Tiago Montero. And Mark Webber is still out there as well. He's last. Dornbos, Pitsonia and Coulthard have all retired. There's this scrap going on at the front. There's another good scrap going on for 11th place between the 2 Saubers, Jacques Villeneuve and Felipe Massa. But understandably, the director is following this one.
Yes, Kimi made 2 changes to the setup of his car on the pit straight with his left thumb. And you see the lights flashing up on the dashboard when he needs to shift a gear. The gap's 1.3. That was a poor lap for him. It was a 1:15.3, so they've both slowed down now. Imagine that maybe Kimi was going to a different fueling map to save the engine a little bit. So I think there's been an instruction now from the pit wall. We saw a bit of activity going on, didn't we? But they're now back in the 1:14s and 15s. Meanwhile, Alonso in the 1:13s, but keeping Michael Schumacher handily at bay, 17 seconds behind him in 4th place. So Alonso only doing what he has to do at the moment.
Well, we were talking about the margins between the winner and the rest of the cars. Michael Schumacher is 41 seconds behind the lead McLaren at the moment, with 9 laps still to go here. So it's going to be the thick end of a minute, I think, at the end of this Grand Prix. So quite a lot for Ferrari to think about over the winter. They've already stopped development of this car, and they are thinking exclusively about 2006 and how they can bounce back and challenge for wins and the World Championship again in what is widely considered in the paddock to be likely to be Michael Schumacher's last year in Grand Prix racing. Very nervous looking Flavio Briatore. He knows that although Alonso might be well on target here for this World Championship, that Renault are going to lose control of the constructors for the first time. So very much mixed feelings, I think, for Flavio Briatore. He was the man who picked Alonso up and managed him when Briatore was on a brief spell away from Formula 1 racing. He left the Benetton team, had a couple of years out of Formula 1, and that was when he picked up Alonso and has steered his career ever since with such spectacular results. But at the moment, Alonso looking good in 3rd place, just 20 seconds behind. There he is, keeping calm as he has throughout 2005. World champion-elect. Just 8 more laps of this 2.6-mile circuit. Less than 20 miles separates Alonso from the world title.
Uninterrupted coverage then to the end of this Grand Prix. Montoya's lead maintained at 1 second, but they're still both in the 1:14, so they have turned the wick down. Alonso a full 20 seconds adrift, albeit lapping quite a bit faster. Fisichella can't make any inroads into Michael Schumacher's 4th place, but Button is now only 1.9 ahead of Ralf Schumacher for 7th and 8th.
Yeah, it's been a good recovery from Ralf Schumacher. Toyota not looking particularly competitive this weekend. Ralf qualifying in 10th place, managed to fight his way up to 8th. Feel a little sorry for Christian Klein. The performance obviously wasn't there in the race like it was in qualifying on that Red Bull Racing car. He is down in 9th place, and at the moment he's not going to score a point. He's only 2.7 seconds away from the points as Flavio Briatore goes into the garage. Perhaps he just can't take it anymore. A lot of smiles there amongst the mechanics. They've worked so hard. They've been working 24/7 in the wind tunnel at Renault to try and find more speed. Dino Toso, who's suffering from cancer, what a brave man he is. He's been working flat out to find more speed. His aerodynamics team have done a super job this year, and they've given Alonso the car with which he could challenge and score all these points and give himself such a strong position.
understand Flavio's off for a comfort break down there. He's been here before, of course, hasn't he? Michael Schumacher taking 2 World Championships for him at Benetton. And what do you think the budget is for Renault compared to McLaren? McLaren must be $300 to $400 million. Renault, what do we think that is? 250 to 300, something like that. Certainly Flavio claims he runs on a lot less dough.
Yeah, they say they've got the 4th biggest budget in Formula One. Certainly Ferrari, Toyota and McLaren you would expect to have a larger budget. Williams must be very well financed, or have been up to this point with BMW support as well. Certainly they pride themselves on efficiency down at Enstone in Oxfordshire, where these Renault cars are built. The engines come from Viry-Châtillon in Paris. Rob White, formerly of Cosworth, is the boss there now, and he's done a super job to get this engine working on the Renault. Still not a match, though, for the McLaren-Mercedes package. As you can see here, nobody, apart from Ferrari in that rather odd American Grand Prix at Indianapolis, where only 6 cars took the start, nobody's had a 1-2 finish so far this season. McLaren are now just 5 laps away from it, but they've been there before as well. Let's not forget, Montoya has lost second place on 2 previous occasions within sight of the checkered flag, denying McLaren a 1-2 finish. This occasion, he is the leader. Raikkonen is second, and they are definitely now lapping in the mid to high 1-minute 14s, driving for a 1-2 finish. And Alonso is driving for the podium he needs.
Supreme consistency for Fernando Alonso. His last 5 lap times have all been within the same 1/10 of a second, 1:13.5, and he's just in the zone, isn't he? He's just got it exactly where he needs it.
It's amazing. It's like a marksman. Target practice. The key is to get all the holes, all the bullet holes in the same zone. And what about this for Alonso? 5 laps of 1:13.5. That is the driving of a champion, Ted Kravitz.
Down here in the Renault garage, just looking across the pit wall, his engineer Rod Nelson on the radio to Fernando, but very calm, so no problems, I don't think. I think he's looking up at the timing screen, so obviously just reading out the positions, race positions, and the gaps to Fernando, keep him informed, keeping him up to date, everyone's doing. Now let's have a look into the garage. Mechanics lying down on the floor, sitting down, some on the workbenches behind, feet twitching, a couple of small looks to each other and to the guys from Michelin, and a nervous mechanic walks back up to the pit wall. But remember, as we said in the early show, these guys have had 10 years of losing, Martin. Their last championship a decade ago, losing since to Williams, McLaren and Ferrari, so they really deserve it.
Steve Nielsen there, the team manager of Renault, just looking up at the sky to see if we're going to get a little bit of rain. A little twist in the tail here at Interlagos. Just over his shoulder was Pat Simmons, who personally I'm most happy about his role in all of this. He was one of the dream team with Rory Byrne and Ross Brawn and Michael Schumacher that won those titles in the mid-90s. They all cleared off, got the big bucks at Ferrari and won many world championships. Now it's Pat's turn. And, well, certainly as far as the Drivers' Championship is concerned, he's going to bring another young man through, and Pat Simmons has done so much for Michael Schumacher and so much for bringing along Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Pat stuck with it, and now he's getting his rewards. Ross and Rory went off and earned a lot of money with a lot of success, and they deserved that, but now Pat's going to get what he deserves very much again. So Montoya's lead 1.7, but that's pretty academic really. They've definitely backed off to save the motors to secure a first and second place, and Alonso has also now moved back into the 1-minute 14s, and he's also just coasting towards the end of this Grand Prix and surely a World Championship.
Absolutely. Michael Schumacher in 4th. Ferrari will be encouraged that they've been able to turn it round from not looking all that great on Friday to being the 3rd fastest package here this weekend on the Bridgestone tyre. And Jenson Button will similarly be discouraged. I think that his BAR package has gone from being 3rd fastest to being 4th fastest behind the Ferrari. Once again, the BAR not having the race pace. He is a lap down on the McLarens as we work the last few laps of this historic Grand Prix. An overused word in sport, but this genuinely is a historic Grand Prix, because this young man here at 24 years and 58 days is about to give a new mark to the youngest ever World Championship. And interestingly, Emerson Fittipaldi was sought out for a quote about Alonso, and he said, "I have huge respect for Alonso. He's a great talent. The record that I've held for so long, since 1972, as the youngest ever world champion, will be in safe hands with him. You can get no higher tribute from no greater a driver than Emerson Fittipaldi.
There is Kimi Räikkönen resting his head against the side of the car at every opportunity, with an extra pad in there too, so he was expecting a problem. And we're on lap 70.
Just 2 to go then. They've lapped everybody up to 6th place. Rubens Barrichello, he's the last man on the lead lap. That gives you some indication of just how quick these McLarens have been, but I want to say hats off to Juan Pablo Montoya. He was saying earlier in the weekend, it's sad really that at the last 4 races I've been as strong, if not stronger, than Kimi, but I've just had to help him, obviously, from a championship perspective. Here this weekend with Alonso in 3rd place, nothing they can do. So Montoya's been allowed to run his race, and he's beaten Kimi Räikkönen, and that is great news for anybody who loves Grand Prix racing, because that means these two are clearly very well matched teammates, and for the next few years it's going to be some fantastic fireworks as these two race each other. Take on Alonso, maybe hopefully a resurgent Michael Schumacher and Ferrari next year. Well, the McLaren boys look happy. 2 miles away now from a 1-2 finish.
Button was just 0.8 of a second ahead of Ralf Schumacher for 7th and 8th. That one's going to go down to the wire. This one is not. Montoya with it comfortably in the bag.
And doesn't he deserve it? Bouncing back from that broken shoulder blade back in April. His comeback in Spain was too early. He suffered a lot of pain, but he got his first victory for the McLaren team at Silverstone in July. He backed that up with a win at Monza. McLaren have won 5 of the last 6 Grand Prix. And Montoya is going to come through and head home Kimi Räikkönen, whose neck is going to be very sore at the end of this Grand Prix. 30 years old, with a huge contingent of local fans. Juan Pablo Montoya puts one over on Kimi Räikkönen. He wins the Brazilian Grand Prix, his 7th career victory. Kimi Räikkönen is happy with 2nd place. It's Montoya's 3rd victory this season. Where's the new world champion? Here he is, coming up the hill out of Juncau corner. He can more or less push it home now. Fernando Alonso will cross the line to become the youngest ever Formula One world champion. Well done, Fernando Alonso!
What a feeling that must be. I wonder how he's going to be on the podium. Is he going to be calm and collected as he's been at all times? Is he going to cry a bit? There's some stuff coming on the track from the crowd, I think, celebrating there. Brilliant, brilliant achievement by Fernando Alonso. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I'm almost in tears for him. He's such a super guy. He really, really is. A fantastic, fantastic talent. Him, Räikkönen, Montoya, the future of Formula One is in such strong hands. Jenson Button as well has to go into that mix. Michael Schumacher, though, I'm sure he'll bounce back strong next year, but the gauntlet has definitely passed on. The new generation is taking over. We have a new world champion for the first time since 1999. It's not Michael Schumacher, it's Fernando Alonso.
Button kept the place for 7th, Ralf Schumacher 8th, so it reads Montoya, Räikkönen, Alonso 3rd, Michael Schumacher with a solid drive in 4th, Fisichella in the sister Renault 5th, Barrichello for Ferrari 6th, Button 7th, Ralf Schumacher 8th. That's the 8-point scorers.
Yeah, rotten luck really for Christian Klien after such a strong qualifying performance for Red Bull Racing. But he finishes out of the points, just 3 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher at the end of that Grand Prix. So no points for Klien this afternoon, but he's certainly left a marker, hasn't he? For next year, which team will he be in with Red Bull? Will it be the junior team or the senior team? I know which one he wants to be in. And I think his performance this weekend will make it very difficult for them to push him down into the junior team.
Quite heavy tyre wear on the front of Montoya's car. Curiously, it looks like on the outside right front. In fact, the outside of both front tyres there for Alonso. Clearly they run a different level, or less camber on their front wheels than McLaren, and just a different pattern of wear, but it got the job done for both of them.
So Fernando Alonso completes the hat-trick. He's the youngest ever pole sitter, the youngest ever race winner, and now he's the youngest ever world champion. That is how it unfolded here after 71 laps of this Grand Prix. crowd would have to view that as a win-win situation. The South American contingent delirious at Montoya's achievement here this afternoon. And Alonso, of course, has done a stunning job. Well, we talked about Pat Simmons throughout the commentary. He is the senior engineer here at the Renault team. He is now talking with Ted Kravitz.
Well, Pat, many congratulations. Flavio's done his nut. There are grown men on this pit wall with tears in their eyes. What's your feeling?
Too old for all that. Fantastic. I mean, a really, really a great result. We knew he'd do it, and I'm so pleased that he's done it here. It means we can go on with some real racing for the constructors in the last 2 races, and we'll go out and we'll enjoy it.
Now your mobile's going bananas, presumably people back in Enstone. I mean, what about them? We must remember there are loads of people in Oxfordshire who've been a key part of this.
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly for this race. You know, the guys back at the factory have done a fantastic job. We've really upped the performance of the car to try and take the race to McLaren, and we're going to keep pushing at it, and that's down to those guys back there. They've really worked hard this season.
Very well done. It's your first World Championship for 10 years. Can you believe it? Is it any sweeter?
I have to do it every year. It never changes. It's what you do the job for. And, 10 years seems a long while.
Thanks, Pat.
Pat Simmons there, senior engineer who engineered Michael Schumacher back in the mid-90s. He's engineered this man to the World Championship. Behold, the new world champion.
And even remembered to put his steering wheel back on. Amazing. That's the rules. You'd think he'd just throw it away at this point.
What a great champion! What a great sporting spectacle! What joy! What release! Fernando Alonso.
Now he's got to go and be weighed, complete with helmet, and so they can check the overall weight of that car in Parc Fermé.
So the podium celebrations will come along. There's big celebrations here with Alonso and the Renault team. Join us in a moment for the podium. Welcome back to the Brazilian Grand Prix, where the national anthem of Colombia is playing for the winner, Juan Pablo Montoya. Just joining us, you're seeing a moment of sporting history. McLaren have won the Grand Prix with Juan Pablo Montoya ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, but the man on the right, Fernando Alonso, has just become the youngest ever Formula One world champion. It's been a great day here in Brazil, a terrific race between the two McLarens. Montoya beating his illustrious teammate Raikkonen in a straight fight, and Alonso driving through to the third place he needed to win the world title.
Raikkonen with a face like a wet Monday morning. He's watching. It's really 2 consecutive years, isn't it, that he probably felt he could have won the world championship. He's going to have to stand up there and watch Alonso enjoy the moment. Third place for him, got beaten by his teammate as well, as you say, but he hadn't got it today.
Driver Fernando Alonso, the trophy presented by Paolo Scaglione, the president of the National.
Well, for a man who likes to finish first, a third place trophy might not seem much, but in his hands it symbolises so much here in Brazil. It's what he came for. He gives it a little cuddle. That man's t-shirt says it all. Alonso is the world champion. Quickly driver of the day.
Montoya.
Has to be Montoya. He beat Raikkonen in a straight fight. Well, after all these years of domination by Michael Schumacher, it is now over. The baton's been handed to the new generation. Fernando Alonso celebrates in Brazil.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Martin. Coronation Street coming right up. Les Battersby's wrangle with status quo continuing. The status quo that was Michael Schumacher is no more. The new prince of Formula One can expect a call from one of his biggest fans, King Juan Carlos of Spain. We crown and congratulate Alonso, and we'll be right back to complete our coverage from Brazil. Campione, Campione, Fernando Alonso, the youngest Formula One world champion ever, drinking deep, and doesn't he deserve it? Third equals first today. Confirmation of the result of the Brazilian Grand Prix. A 1-2 for McLaren, their first in 5 years. Alonso third, good enough to win the World Championship. Michael Schumacher fourth. He's involved in the right dogfight with Montoya at the moment. Fisichella fifth in the second Renault. Then Barrichello, Brazilian, his last drive in Sao Paulo for the Ferrari. Button lapped seventh, and Ralf Schumacher the last point scorer. Let's take a look at how things look. 2 races to go then, a maximum of 20 points, and that is why Alonso can claim the championship today. Montoya and Michael Schumacher neck and neck. Fisichella a couple ahead of Trulli, neck and neck as well. Rubens Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher, and Button just ahead of the unfortunate Mark Webber today. Before we talk about Fernando Alonso, Tony, let's talk about the start of this race, and the Williams, who had the greatest day of the season here last year. Well, the whole race compromised, really, both Williams cars.
It was a very difficult one. It looked to me from the aerial shots like David Coulthard was poking his nose in where he shouldn't have done. But as he told us afterwards, Pete Sonia seemed to have moved across on him. You can see from this aerial shot how he was compromised in the middle, because there's DC in the middle, just on the gantry. He was looking for a spot. Pete Sonia then takes out the innocent party, which is Webber. But this, of course, brought out the safety car and then compressed the field. And after that, we had, the instant going through. There you see it again. And that's Pete Sonia off, one of 3 Brazilians already out of the Grand Prix. And truly just avoiding action there as well. But, tremendous battle then once the safety car had gone in. And this is actually Kimi going past as well. He was in good form, but not problems with his neck.
And very quickly after the safety car, we saw Fernando Alonso getting overtaken by the race winner, Juan Pablo Montoya, just underlining that McLaren have the best car.
Yeah, there's no question, but this was the thing that Alonso said and Renault said, we've updated the package, the aerodynamics, the engine, we're really going to attack. They did, and try as they could. Still, there was a load of fuel on both of those McLarens, and the Renault came in much earlier than we thought, but they got that wonderful third place and they got the championship. And the great thing is Alonso's dad is here as well. His dad Luis is here. He's an explosives expert in a diamond mine, would you believe it?
OK, I think we can have a quick word with the fellow who took a little comfort break as the race was hotting up right at the end there. Flavio Briatore.
Flavio, a moving moment for you.
Yeah, much better now, and not the start of the race, this is sure. Great, after 4 years, winning a championship is great.
Few tense moments up on that pit wall?
No, it's okay. I need to go to pee.
Again, thank you, Flavio.
Yes, you see, he says all along, other teams have bigger budgets, but over the whole season, we have done the best job.
Yeah, because he's been a campaigner for Cotton Cuss, and he's had 800 people, but he spends money in absolutely the right place. And they built a car to win the championship for speed and reliability. You can't question that reliability, the Renault. And by the way, this is the first time Renault have done it as a constructor, engine and chassis. They won 15 races together with Prost and so on, but it's the first time they've done it.
OK, Tony, thank you. A 1-2 in the race, but they've taken the lead in the Constructors' Championship, but they've seen Fernando Alonso win the world title. Here's the McLaren boss, Ron Dennis.
Congratulations, Ron. A totally dominant performance, and finally you've got that 1-2, first in 5 years.
Indeed, but a little bit sad. I would like to go into the last races with some chance of winning the drivers, but Alonso did a good job, deserves to be world champion, and now we'll concentrate on the constructors. It's great to have a 1-2. Great race by both drivers. They raced until after the last pit stop, and they were absolutely equal in everything they had. So I'm pleased for both of them with the outcome.
Well, that result today also has put you into the lead in the Constructors' Championship. I'm sure that hadn't slipped your notice.
No, it hasn't. I don't know how many points by, but very pleased to be there.
Do you think that you can clinch that one?
Well, there's 4 races, anything, 2 races, anything can happen, but we do it a step at a time. It's nice to have a 1-2 here.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
They will battle hard for the Constructors' Championship in the concluding 2 races of the season. A final word from you on Fernando Alonso. The clever card player paid the perfect hand today.
Well, I think it says it all that the King of Spain he's going to get a very special award on October the 21st for being the prime sportsman in Spain. And he's introduced a sport to he's brought this whole sport of Formula 1, he's brought Spain alive. He's an absolute hero, and Emerson Fittipaldi is right. Emerson was the hero of his era in the 70s. He is now. He's a superstar.
OK, then. We have a new record-breaking world champion, a young man in a hurry called Fernando Alonso. Good night from Brazil.